Look at you.
When you're just either way.
We're good.
After a wild day one of the 2026 NFL draft, can day two live up to what we saw last night? We are just 30 minutes away from finding out. Welcome to day two coverage, Draft Night Live. My name is Tim Wood. I am the Essentially Sports NFL editor in chief. We got a crazy night planned ahead. So much to get to. But, the big thing from last night that we just want to point out, if you had some issues with the network broadcasts in terms of being delayed on picks, you're not going to have that issue here, my friends, in round two. Our man, Tony Pauline, tipping the picks all night, getting the picks ahead of time. You'll get the picks before you get them anywhere else. We promise you that. So tune in to the show. Tell your friends. Tell your enemies. Tell everybody. Get to the stream tonight to get the picks. Our cast here in studio today, NFL senior writer Daniel Rios. Daniel, you had a kind of a big night last night with Jeff. Do you have that clip to pull up?
Which one?
Of Daniel's prediction?
No, let me grab it. Sorry.
We'll get to that. But how are you today, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. It was a really fun night one last night. And I think a lot of people were talking about, oh, we don't know, like the talent's not as good as the draft class. We don't know who's going to go. But to me, that's what made it fun. We had no idea who was going, and definitely made it a lot more interesting to talk about.
Absolutely. Excited to have you in studio today. On the stream with us, we have our Mel Kiper, Tony, Pauline. How are you tonight, sir?
Okay, I hope we do get the picks. I mean, it's never a sure thing, but never a guarantee. But it's going well. I mean, I thought last night was exceptional. I hope people who tuned in last night really enjoyed the show. I thought it went very, very well. We'll have a recap. We've got some news, waiting for a story to get up at Essentially Sports, but I've got some breaking news on what may happen tonight. Obviously, we'll talk about some of the picks from last night, both good and bad.
Absolutely. And the fourth member starting with us is NFL senior writer Luke Hubbard. Sir, how are you tonight?
I'm great. Last night was a lot of fun. I mean, like Daniel said, unpredictable as everybody said it was going to be. Hopefully tonight's a little bit of the same. There's still a lot of great players on the board, so excited to see where they all end up.
All right, so the first big surprise of last night came, but not so much a surprise to Daniel here. Let's see that clip.
I think love is a very real possibility here. But the two names that kind of floating in my head right now are two from Ohio State, Sonny Styles and Carnell Tate, surprisingly. Daniel Jeremiah came out last week and said that there's a real possibility that 2 is where Tate's range starts. And I don't know if I fully believe that, but I look at this roster and the question that they need to answer is, do we want to help Cam Ward or do we want to bolster this defense? And they already spent a bunch of money on the defense. They already spent a bunch of money bringing in Wan'Dale Robinson, 4 years, $78 million. So I look at it and I'm going to go Tate here. I'm going to spice it up. Carnell Tate. A lot of people have him as their number one. He's personally not my number one receiver, but I look at it, Jordan Tyson, too many injury concerns to be taken in the top 5 here. You look at Cam Ward, this offense needs an intermediate to deep level threat, and that's exactly what Carnell Tate brings. I've been kind of on this since January. I remember I first said it, that I think that Tate is a real option here at 4, and I think Titans lean into really building around Cam Ward and what he needs to take that next step, and it's a physical receiver on the outside.
Oh, well done.
Yeah. I'll take it. There's no inside sources, just kind of thinking about how I would go about it. Like I've been saying, rookie contracts don't last forever, so you got to maximize it as much as possible. Now we'll see if it was worth it. That's a different question, but I just look at it and you got to maximize Cam Ward as much as possible.
Tony, you mentioned breaking news. You want to get to that first?
Well, the first thing is we've been ahead of the curve on the Jamad McCoy issue. Talked about his injury his knee being red flagged. Talked about last night how he might slide out of the first round, which he did. I'm hearing he could slide out of day 2. There's an article going up real soon at EssentiallySports that talks about that. The situation on the knee the reports on the knee I keep getting are worse and worse and worse. There is a belief that he slide out of the second day of the draft, could end up in the late rounds. I'm told that the initial surgery that he had to fix the knee didn't hold, and he may need another procedure. And if he needs another procedure, it means that he's very likely out for all of 2026, which means he'll be 2 years off the football field. It goes a little bit deeper than that. But again, just like we forewarned everybody last night that Gerard McCoy could fall out of the first round, he could also fall out of the second round. Then again, a team could look at the medicals, say, listen, we're okay with this. Missed the first couple of months of the season, but he's worth the gamble. Again, just like last night, we're going to have to wait and see what happens, once the draft starts and if McCall continues to slide.
Well, there you go. I mean, he kept sliding in our mock drafts all throughout the final couple of weeks, and now we're getting the full story on why. Anything else on the breaking front, Tony?
As of right now, no. I'm sure we've got something. We'll have something as we get closer before the second round is officially called. It kicked off, and the Niners are called to the clock.
All right, so let's take a look. Let's recap round 1. Let's take a look at Luke Hubbard's grades for round 1, and as we take a look at that on screen, let's start with you, Daniel. Pick a couple teams that jumped for you that you specifically want to target.
Yeah, for me, I'm going to start with the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, you move up from 9 to 6 to go get Mansour Delane in that top 10. You look at it with the McCoy news, obviously, there's only one true blue chip corner, in my opinion, in this draft class. It was Mansour Delane. You look at the type of defense Steve Spagnuolo wants to run. You want to play those, heavy blitzes. You want to play that man coverage. And they didn't really have the depth to be able to do that. So you go get your number 1 corner. Delane can obviously play press man, can also play zone. And just a very aggressive guy for a little bit smaller of a corner. But again, I love that move to go jump the Commanders, go jump the Saints, and solidify getting their guy. And then obviously have pick 29 as well. Go get Peter Woods, who we've had conversations about. I was a little iffy on if he'd be a first rounder, but still, it's the kind of same notion as they needed pass rush help. He was probably the highest player on their board. Is another guy who Spagnuolo can he's athletic enough to do loops. He can just do a good job of getting up the field fast vertically. Peter Woods was I think a good pick at 29 because again, Chris Jones isn't getting any younger. It's kind of the same thought process with Travis Kelce.
Tony, how about you?
Well, I start off with basically what I said on Wednesday night in our pre-draft show. We asked what was the dream draft, or what do you thought was how teams with multiple picks in the first round can maximize them. And I went with the Cleveland Browns, and I said 2 things: trade down, go with a left tackle and a receiver in that order. That's exactly what they did. They traded down with the Kansas City Chiefs. I had that in my final mock draft. They took Spencer Fennell, who they believe can play left tackle. They have a desperate need at the left tackle spot. I think I think he can play that position. I think he can play it well. It's going to take some adjustment. God forbid he can't play the left tackle spot. You can always kick him inside. Some people think Fennell can also play center. He's a versatile lineman. They're going to try him at left tackle first. They got the left tackle that they wanted in a draft that didn't have any premier left tackles, and they were able to get some extra picks by moving down. Then they come back at the bottom of round 1. They take KC Concepcion again, which I had in my mock first round draft. And I've gushed over KC Concepcion. I'm not going to take a whole lot of time to do it here. He will quickly become the number 1 receiver for the Browns. He's got the speed to take the top off the defense. He's an outstanding route runner that is able to separate from defenders. He's exceptional running after the catch. He also brings impact as a return specialist. So really the Browns checked off 2 huge needs. and they got extra picks by moving down and doing so.
Nice. Well, Luke, I, one of your teams I don't have to ask you about, but what teams jumped for you?
Well, yeah, I'll start with that team you don't have to ask me about because I always want to talk about my Saints since you don't let me do it during the season. Yeah, let's talk about Jordan Tyson. I gave him an A- grade for that pick just because I came into the draft either wanting Caleb Downs or Jordan Tyson. Downs would have fit great in Brandon Staley's defense, but they needed a weapon to go alongside Chris Olave and to give their young quarterback Tyler Shuck another weapon to maximize him on his rookie deal, kind of like what Daniel talked about with Carnell Tate. Olave can do a lot of things, but Tyson is that big-bodied receiver where you can just chuck it downfield and have him go up and make a spectacular catch in the red zone. So that's a weapon that they desperately needed, so I love that pick for them. And then I also wanted to talk about my Jeremiah Love grade. I gave him a C+, and that is in no way representation of the player. Jeremiah Love was my number 2 player in this draft class behind Downs. He's a terrific player, but man, it's just like with the Raiders last year. Cardinals were not in a spot to pick a running back. I mean, the Raiders, they picked Ashton Genty and then went on to finish worse in the league in rushing. I just see a very similar. I think Arizona's offense is a little better than Vegas's was this last season, but they're just not in a spot to make that pick. That's a pick that you make 2 years down the line when you have a quarterback on the second year of his rookie deal that you feel really good about.
All right. Well, hopefully they can do better by you today. We had so much feedback from last night, so a lot of viewers, and we hope you're tuned back in today. Let's get into some of the questions that we got from the viewers coming into today. First question that we got, Arizona just took a swing on Jeremiah Love at number 3, like you mentioned, Luke, but they're still in quarterback purgatory. Should they take a swing with Carson Beck available, Tony?
Not in the second round, not in the third round. In my opinion, if he's there in the 4th round, sure, why not? You roll the dice. I mean, there are some people who think Carson Beck is going to come off the board tonight. He may. He's got all the physical skills, but he's been very spotty. He's not really stepped up in the big spot. You go back to 2024, he was constantly putting that Georgia team in holes. This year, I mean, he played much better, so he deserves credit for that. But there were times, early in the playoffs where the Miami Hurricanes took the ball out of his hands, especially that Texas A&M game, and relied on the running game late in the contest to win the game. So the bottom line is, should they take Carson Beck? I'm not against it. I just wouldn't do it in the 2nd or 3rd round.
But a lot of talk on Twitter heading into tonight about Beck going in the first 10 picks of this night.
Yeah, Matt Miller has been very, vocal, saying that he believes that Beck's going to go pretty early, potentially the Arizona, even at 34, I'm pretty sure is the pick they have. Yeah. And to me, just to kind of reiterate what, Tony said, is just I didn't love the arm on tape. I just felt like he, struggled against pressure a little bit. But again, he has the size, he has the measurables that you kind of want out of a quarterback, and he has, started a ton of games in college. So there is that upside aspect to it. But when I just kind of look at it, 2nd round is just way too rich for me when it comes to Carson Beck. I can't get behind that. So, I mean, we'll have to see what happens. But again, I would rather take a shot on a guy like Nussmeier over him.
I was going to say, you stole my thunder. Luke, I would imagine you're probably saying that as well. You'd rather go Nussmeier than Beck.
Yeah, I mean, Nussmeier's tape in 2024 is better than I think anybody of these quarterbacks' tape in 2025. And we know now that he's been playing through that gruesome injury all year in 2025. So it wasn't really indicative of his talent level. So I still think I would take a shot on him. But again, that might be some LSU bias, but I still think he's probably the 3rd best quarterback in this class.
All right, Dolphins went tackle in the 1st, but the depth at wide receiver is dwindling. Will Miami make a move for a receiver in round 2? Tony, let's start with you there.
Well, the Miami Dolphins are now run by former Green Bay Packers, both general manager and coach. And they were historically, used to cheese off Aaron Rodgers by not taking receivers in the early rounds, if you remember that. Of course, when they left, they took receivers. I think they're going to go defense in the 2nd round. I think they will eventually broach the receiver position. I don't know that the receiver position has really dropped off. I mean, Denzel Boston is still there. We looked at this as a deep group. There's good receivers through the third round. I think eventually Miami will do it. I think early on anyway, in the second round, they could go defense, specifically linebacker.
How about you, Daniel?
Yeah, I mean, I think the linebackers a very real need for them because I feel like there truly is a drop off once you kind of get like the Jake Goldays, the Rodriguez off the board. Josiah Trotter is another one I'm high on. Now, I'm not saying the later round linebackers are bad, but a lot of them are undersized. They don't have the ideal length you kind of want, or just wait for linebackers to be a 3-down backer in the NFL. So you kind of look at it. I like the day 3, round 3 receivers a little bit more. You got Jacoby Lane, Devon Stribling's a guy who's a lot of people like. I like Skylar Bell, Ted Hurst, just some of those names. And I feel like just comfortability wise and just where that, everyone's kind of ranked, I would rather kind of attack that linebacker position a little bit earlier.
Luke?
Yeah, I mean, I got to agree that receiver is one of the positions in this class that's actually pretty deep. That you can't say that about a lot of the positions in this class. And yeah, I mean, unless Denzel Boston's sitting on the board at 43, which I don't think he will be, then I think you're better off, taking a linebacker or another position in need in the second round and then looping back and getting, one of these third round receivers who are still not that much worse than the second round guys.
So in terms of what to expect from us tonight, as we said before, you're gonna get the picks ahead of the networks for the second round. Thanks to our man Tony Pauline. We got a couple of Hall of Famers coming up tonight. Actually, newly minted Hall of Famer Jared Allen. We have an interview with him that will air around the Vikings pick. A little clip of that. And then Champ Bailey will join us live for the Broncos pick tonight. So be looking for that. Plus, we're going to bring in some experts on teams throughout the night, as we did last night. I think All Day Jay is back with us. Daniel Harms is back with us for the Chiefs. And we're going to get in. Brendan Deutsch, who was on the line twice last night with us for the 49ers, and the 49ers kept trading back. So no airtime last night, but he's kind enough to come back with us tonight. So let's get to one more question here. We saw Spencer Fano and Francis Mauioga go early. For the teams that missed out on elite tackles, who is the plan B? Tony.
Well, you had a bunch more tackles come off the board. I don't know that those guys, I wouldn't classify them as elite tackles, but basically all the top tackles are off the board. You're looking at Jennings Dunker, and as I mentioned in that article today, which I hope will go up soon, a lot of teams are looking at Jennings Dunker as a right guard rather than a right tackle. Caleb Tiernan from Northwestern is someone who's very likely to go today around day 2 of the draft. Some question as to whether or not he's a left tackle or a right tackle. I like him on the right side. Austin Barber of Florida, Drew Shelton of Penn State, Emil Wagner. Now you're talking day 3 guys, 4th, 5th round guys. So really, as we predicted in our show last night, I said I believe that Jason Lacafore and I said there could be as many as 10 offensive linemen who go in the first round. The actual number was 9, and 7 of them were the offensive tackles.
Daniel.
Yeah, and you kind of talk about it. We've been talking about too, just the offensive line run that's going to happen, because realistically, like, you just look at the board that's left. There's no real, I would say, plug and play starter from day one. I view Dunker as a guard. I like Markel Bell a ton, but I think you're taking a little bit of a chance there. He's 6'9" monster of a guy, and then I just look at the rest of the board, like Jude Bowery from Boston College. There's some questions of if he'll play on the inside. Cage Casey's a guy who I think is probably a guard in the NFL. So, I mean, I know, Demetrius Crownover has, some people have some fans. I just don't like him as much. I don't think he's a true guy that can plug and play. So that's why you kind of saw teams get a little bit more aggressive, take the tackles that maybe aren't ready day one, but have that upside and, could potentially be a starter for you, because just the rest of the class, there's no real depth.
Luke, any thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, I think they hit it pretty much on the head. We saw that tackle run in round 1 because teams knew that once you got past like Caleb Lomu, there really wasn't another starting option in this class. I mean, maybe you hit on one later in the rounds, but I won't pretend my ball knowledge is as deep as these guys on the day 3 tackles, but I just don't see, many more starters coming out of this class.
All right, guys, as we're getting close now. We're at about 10 minutes now until we start round 2. Let's take a look in terms of best available picks still on the board tonight. Tony, what are you looking for at the top of round 2 or just throughout the day in terms of the guys that you're looking to get drafted early today?
Well, I mean, obviously, you've got to wait and see what happens with Jermod McCoy based on my report. Caden McDonald, I think, is going to come off the board very early in round 2. I know be a perfect fit for the New York Giants to replace Dexter Lawrence. We talked about that at length with Pat Leonard Wednesday night. I don't think the Giants expected him to be here. Still have some good cornerbacks on the board. And I think what's going to happen is starting before the 40th pick, you're going to see a run on linebackers because there are a ton of really good linebackers there still available. Bills could take C.J. Allen. Still got Anthony Hill, Jacob Rodriguez, Jake Golladay, Josiah Trotter. I think somewhere in round 2, closer to the top, you're going to see the linebackers start to come off the board fast and furious.
How about you, Daniel?
Yeah, for me, I think you're going to see just a run on defense overall. Because I think teams know that receiver depth is there. There's no real running back run that you're not going to see early in round 2 or tackle, in my opinion. It's going to be, those corners, those linebackers, those edges. We still have Colton Hood on the board, Brandon Cisse, Avion Terrell, still all there. Obviously, the McCoy situation. You look at the linebackers, like Tony just mentioned, then edges. You got, guys like Gabe Yakis, Derek Moore, who are certainly some options that teams are going to be looking at. So I would anticipate a heavy defensive run here, and Zion Young is still also on the board. I just remembered.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then the defensive tackles, I really don't think, Caden McDonald makes it past, Giants or the Raiders early in round 2 here.
How about you, Luke? What are you looking for in terms of best available?
Yeah, I mean, they hit it with all the defensive guys, but I'm really interested to see where these 2 guards go. Emmanuel Pregnon and Chase Basantis were both guys that, could have gotten a little bit of first-round hype in the back half. But, like I said, or like we've said, there's not many great offensive linemen in this class. And after those 2, it really drops off. So I'd be curious to see if anybody, tries to make a move for one of those guards or just to see where they end up. Because I think they're going to go early. And then after that, we might not see a offensive lineman taken for a good bit.
We had a lot of intrigue. We had some trades. Is there any sort of sleeper surprises that you're looking for today, Daniel?
I think it's going to have to be the whole Carson Beck situation because that will truly. I didn't think about that last night at all, about the potential of him going in the top 10 here. But obviously, the reports I've seen today, and they're pointing towards that direction. That will truly, be like a full sleeper surprise in my brain because I just had no, recollection of that even being a possibility here in the early second round.
Tony, over under 2.5 in terms of quarterbacks going today.
Under. I'm just looking at who's selecting. Well, I mean, I thought that the Rams would take a quarterback late.
Yeah, right.
Obviously, that's off the board. Harry Roseman and the Eagles could always surprise with the quarterback. It's probably going to be over, but I'm just going to be different. Say under.
Okay. We welcome into the broadcast Penn State linebacker, Good Morning Football host extraordinaire, Jason Cabinda. How are you tonight, sir?
How we doing, people? How we doing? It's day 2, baby.
We're getting hyped. We're getting hyped here. What are you looking for in terms of best available coming off the board here in rounds 2 and 3 tonight?
I think there's still a few defensive tackles on the board tonight who are going to go. I still really like Warren, the Toledo safety. Obviously, Colton Hood, the corners from Tennessee. There's still a few players that I think are really some gems that have, the capability of being Pro Bowl players or players of that caliber that they can still be, snagged in the second round.
Jason, let me ask you, were there any surprises for you late in the first round?
Late, not necessarily. I mean, we all know the big surprise of the first round, being the Rams. I don't know if you guys were able to catch that. I know we were live during the show yesterday, but I don't know if you guys caught the press conference after, and the awkwardness of that press conference and kind of the visual tension between Les Snead and Sean McVay. So that was interesting to see, and I thought it was also interesting to note that Sean had said that was the first time that he had spoken to Ty Simpson. I don't know if he misspoke or if that was and held true. But for that to happen and a guy to get picked 13th overall pick and never have a conversation with the head coach, I mean, to me, it's got to be pretty unheard of.
Yeah.
Crazy. It's absolutely not. And like you said, the body language just said it. I mean, you couldn't hide that for sure.
Oh, he was tight. He was visibly ready to explode there.
Any other outside of Simpson? Any other shocks for you, or we talked about some guys that slid. We talked about some guys that were reaches. Any other big surprises coming out of day one for you?
Yeah, and I'm not saying this to say it wasn't necessarily a good pick, but I was a bit surprised about David Bailey going to the Jets at number 2. I can't lie. I think they're all a gamble at the end of the day. All of this is based on evaluations and things that we see on college tape and things of that nature. But I thought that there were better defensive players to take at that point in time that were more surefire.
Well, we talked about it last night. And again, I mean, and that's why I asked you the question, who had more scheme versatility? If you remember, Arvell Reese, David Bailey, and you answered me with my own answer, my own opinion. It's Arvell. I think that when you look at the tenuous situation with Aaron Glenn there, I think he feels he needs to get a guy that's going to come in and cause impact week 1 of the 2026 season. And that is more so they feel David Bailey is a pass rusher as opposed to Arvell Reese that can play all 3 downs.
Absolutely. And obviously Arvell, I think, is a guy that, when you talk about versatility, can go in so many different places. I think, he's just, there's just, I thought there was more. There was more meat on the bone. I think they left some meat on the bone there. I'm just going to leave it at that.
One other thing that shocked me just in terms of reaction to last night, very weird divide on the Steelers and Max Ianachor. Obviously the news came out that Lemon was on. They actually had video of it of Lemon being on the phone, and then the Eagles jumping ahead to take Lemon. I don't understand the hate on this pick, I guess. I saw a lot of low grades there and a lot of frustration. I'm not going to start with you. I know where you stand on Ianachor. Tony, explain the hate on this pick. I just don't get it.
Because people don't know about Max Ianachor. That's simply it. He's a West Coast guy. Those games don't start till late at night. You don't pay much attention to him. They haven't watched it.
Pointing to the inexperience.
But
if you watch the tape,
Monroe Freeling, I think, has been shoved in a lot of people's faces, and he doesn't deserve it. And they're just not familiar with Ianachor, and that's. But like I said, I wrote about it today, and I'll say it again. I firmly believe 2 or 3 years down the road, he could turn out to be the best offensive tackle for this class.
Yeah, I mean, Jason, there was just so much talk about the inexperience and just coming to the game, not playing in high school, I just wanted to say to everybody, did you watch any of the tape
for this Arizona State tackle?
Yeah.
I got to really catch him at Senior Bowl. Didn't get to see a bunch of his college tape, but I did get to see a lot of the Senior Bowl reps and kind of what the hype was there. And, he had a really good showing. And I think, that's the advantage of those bowl games afterwards, postseason. is that, you get a really good chance to see best on best and see guys who maybe don't play in the same conferences and where they kind of align and stack up because, as you guys know, like we're talking about, Warren from Toledo, and maybe there's going to be knocks on the competition that they face and things of that nature in those conferences. And that those bowl games is kind of that equalizer where you get the opportunity to see these guys all on one level. And I thought he had a really good few days out there.
Well, it's funny. Tim talks about they were complaining about inexperience because he hasn't played much football in his life. I mean, he's been a terrific 2-year starter at Arizona State, as opposed to, say, Monroe Freeling, who was a 1-year starter at Georgia. And I didn't really pay attention to the noise on Ian Core. I have my opinions on him. I didn't hear about the inexperience, but it is kind of funny when you look at the starting experience that he has at Arizona and the development in his game.
All right, we are coming up on the 7 o'clock Eastern hour as round 2 is getting ready to start. Tony, bold prediction, 15 seconds apiece. Tony, give me a bold prediction for day 2.
Well, not so much prediction, but what I'm hearing. I mean, there's been some talk about the Niners trading out of the 33rd pick. That could still happen if they're there. If they stay there, I'm hearing the players that they like or they are choosing on is either cornerback Colton Hood or wide receiver Denzel Boston. Both players that we thought could be first-round choices. The Carson Beck to Arizona noise seems to be getting louder. I mean, that's one I already hate, even though it hasn't happened yet. 35 to the Buffalo Bills. I mentioned it last night. The reason the Bills kept trading down and down further down the first round and eventually out of the first round is they feel there's better value at the linebacker position at the top of round 2. So with the Bills, it could be C.J. Allen. It could be Jacob Rodriguez. The Raiders at 36, I'm hearing.
All right, Tony, you're way over the 15 seconds, okay? If Good Morning Football, we would be dinging you right now, right, Jason?
I thought you said 15 seconds per selection. So let me finish these last two. The Las Vegas Raiders at 36, I'm told very good chance of Chase Besantis. And the Giants at 37, if Cade McDonald is still there, I'm told that's the guy they like.
Okay. Jason, one bold prediction.
One bold prediction. I think this is going to be a DB heavy second and third round. You got the McCoys, got D'Angelo Pons still there, Warren from Toledo. I think there's a lot of quality DBs that can still get taken in this second and third round right now.
Daniel.
Don't know how much I fully believe in it, but we're going to go bold. We'll say there are going to be more quarterbacks than running backs taken tonight.
Okay.
All right. Wow. I like that one. Luke, can you beat that one?
Well, I was going to kind of go in the same vein and say 3 quarterbacks go today, and Garrett Nussmeier's the first one.
I wonder why.
Well, he said bold. I don't know if that.
Homer pick from.
No,
Luke.
I mean, yes. I saw. I forgot who it was. Somebody was saying that a lot of teams had Nussmeier as their QB3.
All right. Well, listen. As of this moment, the 49ers are still on the clock. So let's bring in, while we can, Brandon Deutsch. Brandon, are you with us?
Oh boy!
Oh no! Here he comes.
Can you see me?
Brandon, yes, we can. How are you tonight,
hear me?
sir? We finally get you on the show.
Oh, I know, man. Yeah, it's. I'm thankful to be here. It's interesting. I don't know what they're gonna do. I know a lot of 49ers fans do not like the way Lynch is drafted with early picks the last half decade. So I'm assuming it's a huge reach here. If I had to guess, I have no sources. I wouldn't be shocked if it's Derek Moore. I wouldn't be shocked if it's Chase Besantis. It should absolutely be Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, but I don't think there's any chance they take him here, personally.
How did you feel outside of losing the airtime? How did you feel about the trade downs?
Look, I think it makes sense for a team that really doesn't have a lot of depth. Like they're injured every year, and they're probably going to suffer some injuries again. It's football, right? Every team's going to suffer some injuries. They only have 3 corners really that are playable. They don't have a second safety. Really, Jair Brown didn't have a good year. And they desperately need edge rushers. Michael Williams coming back off of an ACL. Same with Nick Bosa. Wide receiver, I mean, I could see here, but like they just don't have a lot of depth. So I liked it in that sense. I really wanted Omar Cooper after the first trade back, though. That seemed like a perfect Kyle Shanahan receiver. And I'm sure he was fuming when Lynch told him that they're moving back again from 30. For 179, I'm just like, I didn't think it was worth it. I would have taken Cooper.
It felt a little bizarre.
For
Jason,
sure.
Jason, what are you hoping for here with the 49ers?
You can see the Niners get going receiver here. I mean, they got a lot of mouths to feed over there. That's kind of my worry over there. You know, we talked on Good Morning Football about Mike Evans and, you know, that signing of him going to 49ers. I think the only part about Mike Evans going to 49ers that, in my opinion, I didn't feel was a fit was, is this guy going to be able to command 8 to 10 targets with George Kittle, with Christian McCaffrey, with Ricky Pearsall? I know Ayuk has probably played, you know, his last game, but, you know, they've got a lot of guys over there already in terms of who are demanding the football, you know, in terms of the pass game. So that was surprising. I don't think they go receiver here. I think they go possibly corner or possibly edge, maybe a Cassius Howell type of player I could see. So we'll see.
We'll see what happens. I turn the notifications off just for this pick, but I know Tony probably knows who they're going to take.
Not yet.
Bosa.
Oh wow,
Not yet.
wow, nice.
Tony, who do you want them to take here?
I don't have I don't know. It doesn't. I don't have a skin in the game. I mean, Colton Hood would make a lot of sense. An edge rusher would make a lot of sense because of, you know, you talked about the injuries. Bosa has a contract that explodes after the season, so I'm sure they want to get a young guy in there to pair with Michael Williams after the season if they can't do anything about that situation. You know, they got some extra selections. They've got some ammunition, and there's still a lot of good players left on the board.
Luke, if you were mocking it up, where would you go?
I'd probably go with one of the top corners or one of the top edge rushers. I mean, we talked about it. Like, they have the two edges, Michael Williams and Nick Bosa, who are also proven to be pretty injury prone. You know, maybe that's just San Francisco, maybe that's them, but they could definitely use some more help off the edge. So maybe like a Zion Young, and then he kind of hit it with Colton Hood. I think he's my favorite corner still available outside of Jermod McCoy, but who knows with his knee.
I love Zion Young. I wish they would take him. I think because he got a DUI, like, they don't seem to take players with character, quote unquote, character concerns anymore. But he is very versatile. He's good against the run and as a pass rusher. Both great grades on PFF. So I would love Zion Young.
Could see Avion Terrell here too, corner from Clemson.
Yeah.
You know, legacy player. Or, you know, you've seen what the brother is able to do and play, and I think that's what a lot of coaches, you know, love about, you know, seeing brothers that are already in the league, is you kind of get a snapshot of, you know, what you could possibly get, you know, and the fact that they play the same position obviously helps a ton. But I like the tape for Avion Terrell as well. You know, I really do.
Yeah, I would agree. Terrell, for a couple of years now, has been a terrific cornerback at Clemson.
Yeah.
And I know he's being downgraded because of the hamstring issue and the 4.40 time at Pro Day. He doesn't play slow. I mean, you don't see him, you know, chasing receivers down the field or trying to play catch up. He can run step for step with them. And the thing about Terrell that I really like a lot is he makes plays with his back to the ball. He's not a guy who does a lot of face guarding. He's not playing the receiver's hands. He gets his head back around and nicely positions himself to defend the throw.
And he has great short-term memory. And I think that's one of the biggest things for cornerbacks is, man, if you get beat deep, does that get in your head the rest of the game? How quickly can you put that play away, turn around, and get locked in on the next one? And that's what I think, not only him, but D'Angelo Ponce from Indiana. I think those two corners do that the best out of any of the corners that are left over right now. And I think that's really, really important, because at the end of the day, man, there's some freaky athletes out there on the outside. There are going to be times you get got. You just got to make sure you're getting more than you're getting got, you know? And I think with that mentality, you can really go far at that cornerback position in the league.
And the thing about Pons is he rarely ever gets beat. I mean, it's under 5'9". If he was 4 inches taller, he would have been long gone. But he never gets beat. You got to love the way that guy plays. against the bigger receivers that you saw with Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate in that Big Ten title game. He just never backs down from a challenge.
Yep.
Brandon, where do you want him to go? They got to pick later in the second. How do you want this second round to play out for you in general with that second pick?
I prefer I like the guard depth more than most people. I think they can get a guard later or a tackle. Like they interviewed Harkey from Oregon. He should be there in round 4 or 5. So I'd love an edge rusher and a wide receiver in this round. And they have 2 picks. So I know the pick is in. I know they've been linked to Chris Bell in the past too, but he's coming off of an injury. I'm interested to see like if it's not Chris Bell here, like could Chris Bell be available at 58? Because he seems like if he's healthy, he's a prototypical college A&M receiver. Yards after catch, 6'2", can play the Debo role that they've been lacking and missing the last few years, but we'll see.
Yeah, Omar Cooper would have been perfect for that Debo role.
I would have loved it, but hopefully they hit on some 5th round. I mean, Lynch has been one thing he's been great on is those 5th round picks. Like Lenoir was a 5th round pick, even in the Trey Lance draft. Like he's hit on those late picks a lot. So I think it's good that they added a 5th round pick.
Like Brock Purdy, who bailed him out of that Trey Lance pick.
Lynch would not have a job if it was.
As Brandon said, the pick is apparently in. Roger Goodell taking his time getting, or is it Goodell tonight? Or is it a?
Usually it's not Goodell.
Yeah,
they usually kind of do like random.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Tonight is they're bringing in.
The pick is in.
Bringing in
it is a receiver, but not the receiver I had suggested. I'm told it is DeJuan Stribling, the receiver from Ole Miss.
Wow.
That high?
Massive.
Wow.
Well, I wouldn't start with that. I mean, because Stribling had been making a big march up draft boards. I mentioned that early, literally the last 10 days at Essentially Sports. Thought maybe mid-second round. But again, I mean, he's tall, he's fast, he's explosive. I got to interview him on the phone. He is an intelligent, articulate young man. Jason was talking about the mouths to feed at the San Francisco. And that's ironic. He goes to San Francisco because there were a lot of mouths to feed at Ole Miss last year. I mean, they had 2 terrific receivers. They had a really good pass-catching tight end. And they had an outstanding quarterback who also liked to run the ball. And they had a great running game. He's big. And not as, is 33 early? Yes, but he had a lot of upward momentum literally the past month.
Brandon, what do you make of the pick?
I hate it. Too early. I could have got him at 58. This is a prototypical Niners pick. They always reach on guys they like.
He wouldn't have been there 50. He would not have been there. He would have
been a lot of buzz the past week.
Somewhere between 38 and 45. No doubt about it.
I do like his upside. I mean, hopefully he turns out to be the player that I think consensus, like a lot of people in the scouting industry really like him. Like Tony said, he's big. They've needed a vertical threat. It seems like he can be that for Brock Purdy. Try and push the ball downfield a little bit more. So it seems like they're probably going to go guard or edge rusher with that second first. So at least they came away with the receiver.
You kind of thought that Christian Kirk filled that role, though, no?
Yeah.
When it comes to stretching the field and that deep part, like if they were going to go wide receiver here, like I would have gone more like a Zachariah Branch, like a true gadget guy who was going to go crazy in the screen game, crazy in the slot and things of that nature. I don't scheme-wise, I don't see the fit in a room that's crowded that I feel like the receivers who are already ready to play those roles, DeMarcus Robinson, like Kirk, I don't think it makes sense.
2 points what Jason said. Number one, Zachariah Branch has been red flagged because of a knee injury. The only reason I didn't report it the way I did with Chirad McCoy was because I didn't have as much detail. I know that some teams have red flagged him. The pick is in right now at 34. And the thing with Stribling is entering the season, Stribling came in with the highest grades of any receiver by NFL scouts. He was graded as a day 2 pick, so I don't think this is a reach. I guess the Arizona Cardinals have made their pick. They must have been listening to this broadcast because they stole Chase Besantis away from the Las Vegas Raiders 2 selections later. So Chase Basantis goes to the Arizona Cardinals at pick number 34.
All right.
Brandon, what do you think of that in division pick?
I think it's a great pick. Basantis is a great player. I mean, I was super high on Rutledge. I had him as the 16th overall ranked player on a board I made. So I wasn't shocked to see him go in the first round. But Basantis I had pretty high. I knew the guards would go pretty quickly in this draft. I'm just still shocked about Stribling. I know Tony says he's a great player. I just I hope he's really good. They really need it. And to Jason's point, like, Kirk was injured a lot the last few years, right? So, like, and Mike Evans dealt with injuries last year. Now, I know he's been healthy most of his career, but those are two on the older side receivers, right? Pearsall was injured all of last year, so I get why they went receiver. I think they need extra juice in that room.
Love to know who's going to be throwing the football.
And I understand the concern of Mike Evans. One of the things that Mike Evans wanted when he went to free agency was he wanted to go to a team where he was going to get a lot of targets because he feels he needs a lot of targets to get to the Hall of Fame. And if they're adding more hands onto the depth chart at receiver or eventually tight end, I don't think Mike Evans is going to be all that pleased.
Brandon, before we let you go, anything you want to plug, since we appreciate you coming on?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. You guys can check me out. Probably my biggest following's on TikTok at Brandon S. Deutsch. A little over 109,000 followers there. Been doing a lot of draft coverage, so would appreciate any of those supporting the draft content, following, and big fan of all your guys' work. So thank you for having me on, and hopefully the Niners pick an edge at 58.
Absolutely. Brandon, huge thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Good luck, guys.
Jason, what do you make of the Basantis pick for the Cardinals?
I mean, I like it because I think it's always a good thing to shore up the offensive line. I think you also reinforce the fact that, you are very invested in the run game. You went and got Jeremiah Love, who's obviously going to be a superstar. I think he's the best offensive player in this entire draft. Jeremiah Love, like generational, legitimately, like Bijan Robinson, Saquon Barkley level, which is awesome. And, I just think, Jacoby Brissett right now is obviously having contract issues. He doesn't feel good about that number that he's playing at right now. We'll see how that advances. And then sitting behind him is really just Gardner Minshew. So you're looking at Jacoby Brissett, Gardner Minshew. You're looking at a couple of bridge quarterbacks with no real tell on who the future is going to be, with no real quarterback left over right now who you can confidently say, is going to be a guy you can look at and say, okay, this is the future of the program. Like, you might be able to get, value if you can develop a Drew Allar, or if you can find early college years of Cade Klubnik, or, a quarterback like that. But that's quite the risk and gamble for, a couple of bridge quarterbacks and no really telling who the future is going to be at that position.
All right. So the Bills pick is in. Daniel, who do you want them to go with here?
I really want them to go CJ Allen because we've talked about it a ton. I think this is a rushing defense that we all know has struggled the past couple of years. And you just look at it like that is exactly where he thrives. That was where he was really good in college. Now passing down is a little bit different story, but he has the athleticism, in my opinion, to really get better in that regard. I think that if it's not CJ Allen, it has to be defense in some capacity, because that's
it is defense. The pick is in, and I'm looking at it. It looks like it's TJ Parker of Clemson.
Ooh, there you go.
Clemson.
I would agree with you. I would have thought that CJ Allen, especially with the moves they were making, but there comes a point in time when TJ Parker, the reward potentially outweighs any risk. And I know he didn't have a good season. It was very highly rated. A lot of people, including myself, thought potentially top 15 entering the year. But when you watch the film on TJ Parker, it wasn't due to lack of effort. He didn't mail it in as a senior. I mean, he's explosive. He's athletic. He made some nice plays, had a nice week of Senior Bowl practice. I think this is this is value for the Buffalo Bills, who, while they needed a linebacker, they also needed an edge rusher.
Jason, what are your thoughts on this pick?
I think it was necessary to go D-line here. I know there's some real capable linebackers, but, I mean, when you look at the fact that they went and got the pair of the Georgia teammates in this offseason, N'Kobe Dean and those guys. Obviously you got Max Crosby back, which was one hell of a cycle, this offseason with the drama, of that failed trade. You go and you get a guy opposite him, you still got Malcolm Kuntz over there, but TJ Parker, add him to that room. You got our mentor, Max Crosby. I think he's a very even defensive end. I don't think he's a pass rush specialist or just a run first specialist. I think he's an all-around player from that standpoint. So not bad at all. I don't mind it.
Luke, how about you here?
Yeah, I thought it would be CJ Allen to plug up that run defense for Buffalo, but they need edge rushers too, so it doesn't hurt to get another big guy off the edge. And I think of those three Clemson defenders that had down years, I think Parker probably played the best.
Yeah, I'd agree with that for sure. Wait a second. We got a trade.
Part just came up for
Las Vegas has traded the pick to Houston. So now Houston is on the clock.
I feel like that has to be Caden McDonald.
You would think
Right.
so. I said that and I wrote that the Giants wanted Caden McDonald at 37, so it would make sense that the Texans jumped up 2 picks to get him. I'm told that they received the 117th selection. So that's when you look at some of the trades last night. That the 117th selection is a good haul. For the Raiders, and they did in fact select Caden McDonald. So they have their new nose tackle.
Wow.
They jumped ahead of the Giants. They denied John Harbaugh a player to replace Dexter Lawrence. I wonder if they're reading Essentially Sports, because that's what we wrote about. And listen, there was some talk that the Texans could take McDonald at the end of round 1 with their selection.
Absolutely. A lot of mocks had McDonald.
They come back, they take Cade McDonald, so they get 2 terrific offensive line, 2 terrific linemen that are going to be starters as rookies.
Yeah, I think if you told a Houston fan that they would get Caden McDonald and Keelan Rutledge in this, in the draft, that they would be very, very happy.
That defense is just otherworldly. Like, you had a guy who I've talked about multiple times who's going to be in this. He's going to be in this league for 8 years, and he's just going to be a premier run-stopping tackle. Now you have the potential to get that upside in the pass rush a little bit to, just collapse the pocket from the interior when you're already getting a bunch of pressure from those edges. So it's. D'Amico Ryans can't be, happier.
I wanted him for my Patriots before.
we know.
Yeah, I know. I know. You know.
We know.
I wanted him for the Patriots before Tony and I talked to him. We did it with one of our draft interviews, and I wanted him even more after it. I'm still trying to figure out the pick from last night. But Jason, what do you make of Caden McDonald to the Texans here?
Yeah, and we talked about this yesterday as well. I thought that what he was asked to do in college, and we talked about this, may not fully be his skill set, but he's kind of asked to be a run-stopping, double team eater all day long. But I do think there is pass rush upside that was not necessarily unlocked there at Ohio State. But from an efficiency level in terms of stopping the run, man, I thought he did a really good job. Obviously a first-team All-American guy. I think he had around 70 tackles, 9 or 10 TFLs. Good player, and it's Ohio State. You're
right on about that. They didn't need him the rest of the pass. They play a 4-man front. He was playing next to a one-gap defensive tackle. So, and they had 2 terrific edge rushers. One in Kenyatta Jackson is going to be a first-round pick next year. He's only been a 1-year starter. He couldn't get on the field in 2024 because they had so much incredible talent.
Tyreek Williams,
at Ohio State. They're all playing in the NFL now. So I completely agree with you. The Giants are on the clock now. The Giants wanted Caden McDonald. That's why
Where do they go now, Tony?
Denzel Boston is still on the board. And, we talked about the Giants potentially taking a receiver with that second selection. Both of the top-rated receivers, Carnell Tate and Jordan Tyson, were off the board. This is speculation on my behalf, just me thinking out loud. I don't have any information about that. But Denzel Boston is there. He's a polished receiver. He's got excellent size. He'd be a terrific compliment for Malik Neighbors when Neighbors returns. Oh, no, here we go. Giants Giants go defense again. The Giants selected Colton Hood, who was rated higher on the board than just above Denzel Boston. So the Giants hope to answer their need at cornerback with Colton Hood.
Wow.
They had a real, corner need as well. They needed another outside guy. So, it makes sense. But I am a little surprised they didn't go receiver because they desperately need that. Just, it goes back to just maximizing your rookie quarterback. So the real health or your young quarterback. You don't know the real health of Neighbors. You don't know how long it's going to take for him to come back. So I'm a little bit surprised by that. But, it still answers the need. So
in terms of Hood, Hood was on the cusp of first round on a lot of mocks. Little surprised in terms of him not being first round. So good value here, I would say, Tony.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know one thing about John Harbaugh. He knows how to develop defensive backs. As bad as they were drafting receivers for most of his time there, they've usually found diamonds at the cornerback position. Hood has got excellent size. He's fast. Bounced around a lot in college, which is sort of a bit of a red flag to me. But, this is the day and age of NIL. I think he's got tremendous upside. I think John Harbaugh will be able to polish him into the cornerback that the Giants hoped Deonte Banks would be a couple of years ago when they drafted him.
Jason, how do you feel in terms of them going corner here?
I like it. I do think, when you lose a guy like Dexter Lawrence, I think you got to shore that up. And that hasn't happened yet. I think that's the biggest need at this point for that team right now. And you heard Malik Neighbors allude to that in that podcast with him and Micah Parsons. And he was like, look, man, you go and you make a hole, you got to go fill that thing back up. And they haven't done that yet. And I think that's a much bigger concern because I think he was a foundation of what made that defensive line so dangerous across the board between Carter, Thibodeau, Brian Burns himself, and Kayvon. That's a damn good defensive line, and it's great when you have a guy like that in the middle just eating it all up and letting everybody eat in their one-on-ones. So it's surprising they haven't done anything just yet to shore that up.
Well, I'll say this, Jason. Short of Kristen Miller, I think anybody at this pick at the defensive tackle spot would have been a reach. Now, the Giants don't have a third-round pick. We talked about this with Pat Leonard the other night. They're going to have to wait till the fourth round. Maybe they got their fingers crossed that somehow Dom Orange falls into the fourth round, the big defensive tackle from Iowa State. Maybe they make a move back into the third round to draft Dom Orange. Maybe they're hoping that Darrell Jackson Jr. I agree with what you say. I think it was a big. It wasn't a big. They made their defense weaker, trading Dexter Lawrence, and they had a bad run defense last year, so it's worse. I think Arvell Reese will help with that. But again, Colton Hood I think is much higher rated than any of the defensive tackles who were on the board when they selected, and they wanted Cade McDonald, so that they actually A for effort because that would have been their pick if the Texans had not traded up and stolen them away from them.
Daniel.
Yeah, I was going to kind of echo that. Like you do look at it, and Colton Hood, I think, is the better value here. And we kind of talked about it a little bit Wednesday night when they don't have that third round pick. You get into those mid rounds. There are some, there isn't a lot of upside with a lot of these defensive tackles in the mid rounds, but you're going to get some good guys who can play, the nose, the one technique, just one gapping guys, two gapping guys. Like Dale Jackson is the guy we named. I don't think Dominique Orange makes it to round 4, but you have those big run stuffers like Tim Keenan, the Dante Corleones, like the guys who aren't really going to provide much upside on the passing downs, but can just plug up a hole on first and second down.
So how do they plug this now, Jason?
I like Lee Hunter too from Texas Tech. I know not a lot of people have talked about him, and a lot of people might say that that his ceiling is not very high in terms of what he can grow into. But I do think there's value in 6'4", 320 pounds stuffing up that middle, and just being stout there. Even if the sack or pressure totals might not ever necessarily follow his name at a high level, I do think there's still value there from that standpoint.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think he's a terrific player. I don't think I think he's underrated. You remember what Pat said to us, or alluded to anyway, when he was on, that they could sign DJ Reader, bring DJ Reader in, as sort of a stopgap type of player. The Raiders made their selection. The Raiders have selected Treydon Stukes, defensive back, another guy like Jawan Stribling, who has been marching up draft boards. I mean, Stukes out of Arizona, he's got terrific size. He can play outside corner. He can play nickel. He can play safety. Ran 4.33 at the combine, a guy whose game is really on the upswing. And if there, I mean, I knew he was moving up draft boards. Slightly surprising maybe that he went ahead of Avion Terrell, but he's got better size than Avion Terrell. And I think teams like the fact that he's sort of you can stick him inside as a nickel safety. You can play him as an outside corner.
What do you think of this pick here, Daniel?
That's a wonderful pick. As I actually, really love the Stukes. I think you just kind of look at this Raiders roster. Taron Johnson, they traded for him. So that's kind of that nickel, situation solved for them. And then they have Eric Stokes and Darian Porter. So I kind of feel like they didn't really know where to fit Avion Terrell in that defense. I think this team kind of likes what they saw from Darian Porter in the back half of last year. So, I mean, Stukes is that guy who can come down, play the free safety role, come down, fill the run. And again, is another experienced guy in college and just a heck of an athlete running that 4.33.
Did you want Denzel Boston at all, or?
What'd you say, Luke?
I was asking Daniel if you wanted Denzel Boston, or is he happy with Stukes still?
I think they wait for a receiver in the later rounds, but I'm okay with no Denzel just because they kind of Jack Besh is already a guy there. They took Dante Thornton last year, so
for sure. Jason, thoughts here?
I like the story around this guy more than anything. Obviously, the athleticism jumps off the tape for sure at 6'1", 190 pounds. The position versatility, as you guys said, can slide outside, can play inside and nickel as well. But I mean, I think the hunger factor's a lot here. The kid's a former walk-on, had to earn it, at every level, at every step of the way. And I think, when you draft a guy like that who knows what it's like to truly have to start at the bottom and work his way up, man, it's a perfect mentality to take to the NFL. And hopefully he does keep that same mentality and stays hungry because, man, those are the type of dudes who thrive in the league. Because, man, it don't matter what you did in college. When you get to the league, all that is done and over with, man. You're starting from ground zero again, and he knows all about that. So that's what I do like about that pick.
He wears the hunger on his sleeve.
Yeah, absolutely. You need it. Look, the NFL world is the definition of dog eat dog, man. That's what it is, day in and day out. It is dog eat dog. There's no other job in the world where each and every single day that you go out there and you perform, that what you put on tape will determine whether you're there the next day or not. There ain't a whole lot of jobs like that.
Jason, give me one story on that front from your run in terms of just the battle, the day-to-day battle in keeping your position.
Oh, it is very cutthroat. I mean, when I played in Detroit before Dan Campbell got there, when we still had Matt Patricia, I mean, I could go as far as to say that there were maybe some mind games played. I mean, we would play a game on Sunday and there would be a couple of guys that, at different positions that did not play very well. And you came in on Monday, you think you're just going to come in, watch film, get your lift in, do all that. And as you're going to get to the film room, you're walking through that big hallway and the indoor field's right there on your left. You take a peek in there and you see 4 guys at your position working out off the street, hungry. And maybe one of them gets signed on a practice squad. And you from a mental standpoint, you actually feel what it's like for people to be nipping at your heels just off the strength that you haven't one bad game. And that happened on a multitude of weeks. I mean, I think we had the most transactions in the NFL that year.
Yes,
I remember. Some of them were injury stuff, but a lot of them were simply just, look, if you ain't gonna get that job done, I promise you, we're on the hunt for a guy at all times. And that's what the NFL is, and it is a revolving door in the NFL building, man. And it is tough. It is tough. Yep.
Browns have made the pick.
Yep. Cleveland. What do you got?
They double dip at the receiver position, and they take Denzel Boston with this selection. In the first round, they get the smaller speedster guy that can stretch the field, and Casey Concepcion that can also double up as an explosive return specialist. And now they get the bigger possession wideout. I mean, I think this Denzel Boston, very natural catching the ball, not the fastest guy, not the quickest guy, but he's going to be your underneath receiver. I think this is a dynamic 1-2 punch.
Yeah,
for the
my
Browns, who
goodness.
have done an outstanding job after getting their left tackle.
This is
Wow.
Cleveland, right?
Yeah, that's Cleveland.
This is weird
I
to say,
love
but
that.
like, Browns are drafting well for the first 3 picks. I mean, it's not something that typically happens, but I mean, I love the fit. Denzel Boston obviously offers a little bit of big slot potential too. So I know, Concepcion there as well can also play in the slot, but it's another guy who can just play anywhere. And I mean, this is an offense that you talk about gearing up for a potential 2027 quarterback. So obviously we have to see what happens with Shador and that entire situation potentially, but whoever is that quarterback of the future, you have a real solid foundation now.
I mean, Luke, is he going to be these receivers? Are they getting the ball from Watson or are they getting the ball from Sanders this year? In your opinion?
Oh man, that's tough. I mean, they got all that money invested in Watson, so it's hard not to start him if he's actually healthy. But that's a controversial decision. But then you go to Shador, and he didn't put on like a ton on tape last year to want to build around. So I think if they don't go with another quarterback in this class or something that they feel good about, I think it might be Shador to start the year just to see if they can get anything out of him. But there might be some changes along the way.
It's got to be Shador, man, right? I mean, the kid's just got the moxie, and for him to be able to navigate that situation, as much of a crappy situation as that was, between the GM, the coach not claiming him, not claiming the pick, trying to act like they didn't want him, to ending up,
not even wanting to acknowledge that he was his second quarterback on, for that 1 week. Didn't even want to say he was the second, the backup quarterback for that week.
I mean, what a weird situation that you just refused to put your arm around this kid. I mean, that was a very, very strange situation. What I love about it now is it seems like Todd Monken has really come in and he's put his arm around this kid. And you saw, Shador in the early press conferences of spring be like, look, man, like I finally have somebody who knows how to communicate with me, somebody who's embracing who I am and wants to learn how I learn. And that's what great coaches do, by the way. Great coaches don't just come in every building with their little cookie cutter and think that it's going to work for every single player. Great coaches get to know their players, get to know their personnel, and then they adjust themselves based on who they're working with. So I love that coming out of there. And when it comes to the Denzel Boston pick, I think this is the best red zone threat receiver in this draft. I've watched this kid closely because I cover Penn State during the college football season, and I've seen a lot of Washington's games. When you get within that 20, 25-yard fringe, this kid really comes alive. So, love the pick.
The Chiefs pick is in. I'm sorry, the Chiefs pick is in.
All right. What do we got?
The Chiefs select edge rusher R. Mason Thomas. Oklahoma. Sooner Boomer.
Right. We've got Daniel Harms back with us from last night. He was so good last night. We bring him back tonight. Daniel, you heard the pick?
I did hear the pick.
What do you think?
That's, again, it's not something I was really expecting, especially when you consider what the Chiefs usually do at defensive end. They usually go for the bigger guys, and Thomas is a little bit more undersized. I want to pull up his numbers real quick for me so that I have it in front. My screen over here is still on the Browns pick, so we're seeing.
He was 6'2.5", 251 at the combine, ran a 4.67.
Yeah, so a little bit more speed for the Chiefs at the defensive end position, which they desperately do need. And when you're trying to combine a little bit of Peter Woods, who's a more athletic guy, a little bit undersized too, but shorter arms, he wins with athleticism and power in his hands. And then George Karlaftis, more of a pocket collapser, crusher, run and edge-setting defensive guy over on the other side. And Thomas brings more of the athleticism and speed on the opposite side. Good get off and burst off the line. That's what they want to be able to challenge. If Chris Jones is going to be able to win inside quickly, and then you have another player on the opposite side who can win quickly too, maybe you can force some of these quarterbacks to run into a George Karlaftis win late. So I actually like this for the Chiefs because I've been asking them to draft some defensive ends with more speed and burst off the edge to actually complement the ways that Chris Jones and George Karlaftis win.
Let me ask you something, Daniel. I mean, in a lot of ways, and this is not going to make you happy. He reminds me of Felix Azuma, who
Mhm.
the Chiefs took what in the first round in 2023. Would that would that scare you at all?
I mean, not really. Especially, they're a little bit different for me. Felix had 34-inch arms. You have a shorter arm player in Thomas, and he's not going to necessarily be asked to transform the way they asked Felix and Enrique to transform. Spags asked him to put on some weight and be better against the run, which he did, but he did lose some of that explosiveness. I think that they're not going to necessarily ask our Mason Thomas to do that in Kansas City, be more of the player that he is, and win with that speed. So trying to really, I think, round out their defensive line rotation with this pick. And again, when you have a guy they drafted last year in Ashton Gelati, effort-based player, shorter arms as well. He's got some burst, a little bit of athleticism, a little bit of juice, not a ton of it. It kind of our Mason Thomas kind of rounds out their rotation with everyone that they have now.
Well, let me say this. You talk about short arms. The Cincinnati Bengals just selected Cassius Howell of Texas A&M, I guess, to be the replacement for Trey Hendrickson. Would you have preferred Cassius Howell over R. Mason Thomas, or you're fine with the Thomas pick?
I'm good with the Thomas pick. I mean, either one, honestly. I think Thomas is a little bit more of a well-rounded player. I think he is a bit better against the run than Cassius Howell was. I think that Howell is going to be more of a DPR in the league. That designated pass rusher for them, but a really, really good player, really good technician with his hands. And he's going to be very, just again, kind of like that replacement pass rusher for the Bengals, which they do really need some of that juice off the edge to actually rush the passer. They're still trying to figure out what's going to happen with Shamar Stewart. So bringing a guy in who can kind of complement that power player makes a lot of sense.
Daniel, before we let you go, you've come on 2 straight nights for us. What do you got to plug? What do you want to get out there in terms of getting some traffic?
Yeah, you guys, I work over at Bleacher Report. I cover DBs and tight ends. All of my rankings, my lists of all the players that I have are up on Bleacher Report. You can find them there. And then I do work covering the Chiefs on rgrfootball.com. We are also doing a live stream for the draft as well, looking at what they're going to be doing. Now that they have the 40th pick, and we're going to see if they end up picking anybody else trying to trade up into the second round or third round for the rest of the draft. But that's what it is. I do a lot of film work for Bleacher Report and RGR, but that's what I got.
Awesome. Appreciate you joining us tonight very much, Daniel.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely. Jason, 2 straight edges. What do you think of the picks?
I love Howell. I love Howell. I can't lie, man. I really, really, this kid's got burst. This kid's got bend. He's got a plethora of pass rush moves. I know he's obviously better in the pass game necessarily than in the run game. But, man, like, this is a guy who I think you can really designate as being a closer. Like, that's how I see this kid. I mean, multiple 3-sack games this year, SEC Defensive Player of the Year. I like this kid a lot, like a lot. I think he's got a lot of room to grow as well, which I think from an upside standpoint, I think there's a ton to look forward to with this kid.
Luke, how about you here?
I want to get back to Cassius Howell, but let me just tell you, the Saints have made the selection, and Mickey Loomis has gone back to his love of the line of scrimmage. He takes Christian Miller, the defensive tackle from Georgia. Okay. I just want to echo what Jason said. I mean, I don't buy this. Well, Cassius Howell is not good against the run. If you watch the film, he's more than an edge rusher. Right? He's an explosive athlete who finds a way between guard and tackle, uses his hands extremely well, can play off the line of scrimmage. When they use him on zone blitzes, can get out laterally in pursuit. I think this was it's the Bengals, but I think it was a terrific pick by them.
Yeah, I agree. Home run in my opinion, truly.
And like I said, the New Orleans Saints select Christian Miller with the 42nd selection of the draft.
All right, Luke, your Saints.
There he is.
You like it?
Well, I thought they were going to go with an edge or a corner I thought there was a chance they were going to trade up and get Caden McDonald, but because I heard they were making some phone calls, but when that didn't pan out, I thought it would be edge or corner. But I mean, they need a run stuffer in the middle of that defensive line. They drafted Vernon Broughton last year. He kind of been injured and hasn't really I don't really know exactly where his standing is with the team. So adding a big guy in the middle to stuff to run. Maybe add some pass rush help there too. It's not a bad pick. I probably would have taken a Zion Young, Avion Terrell, or even like a D'Angelo Pons. But I can understand the thought process behind that pick. And Mickey does love his defensive lineman.
Yeah, I loved Christian Miller while watching him. I think, to me, he was the second best, run stopper in this class. Very active with his hands, knew to really set his base and hold his ground. And I think out of all these defensive tackles that are going to go early, I think he has the highest upside rushing the passer. I saw a little bit of explosiveness with his hands, being able to get up the field against Ole Miss a little bit. So it didn't show up a ton, but I think Christian Miller definitely can develop into something special. But again, just his base floor, game coming in the NFL, he's very talented at plugging up holes in the middle of that 0-1 technique.
All right, so the Dolphins are now on the clock, and so we have another expert on the line with us, Sam Marco from Perfectville. How are you tonight?
I'm the sun is out here on the West Coast. We've got a big fat guy that we picked at the 12th overall pick, which I'm excited about. We got a guy who can intercept the ball, which is more than I can say for the New York Jets that are picking right behind us right now at the 26th overall. And I'm here in April talking football with you guys. What do I have to complain about?
So in other words, it's perfect in Perfectville, right?
It's 1972 all over again. What's old is new.
All right. Where are you liking your Dolphins to go here?
Listen, if you guys play golf and you've been up against a 50-foot putt, as an amateur, all you got to do is hit that ball and get it closer to the hole. It doesn't have to go in, but you've improved your position. The Miami Dolphins are us on the green 50 feet away. As long as they don't take a punter or a kicker with this pick, they're going to improve their overall stock, in my humble opinion.
Here comes the kicker off the board. Confirmed.
We'll be breaking ground. Look, they need wide receiver. They need edge help. They need more help in the backside of this defense. I really like what they did with Chris Johnson yesterday. They still need safety help there. Again, it's hard to imagine them messing this up, but we'll see.
Let me ask you, what are your thoughts on Malik Willis? I think this is one of the bigger gambles of the offseason in terms of trade acquisitions. How do you feel about him?
Look, what I feel about Malik Willis is that I have a lot of faith in John Eric Sullivan right now. I was not a fan of him becoming our new general manager, but the thing about Sully, because we're tight like that, is that he does what he says and says what he's going to do. And so far, everything that he said he was going to do, he has done. He told you it starts with the quarterback. What did he do? He gave a bunch of people one-year contracts. I'm almost on the team for a single-year contract at this point. The only guy that got a multi-year deal, Malik Willis. After that, what did he say? It's going to start up front. We got to build the trenches. What does he do? He goes and gets his guy, Caden Proctor, big, massive human being out of Alabama. He's doing what he says he's going to do. So if John Eric Sullivan is going to say it starts with the quarterback and that's his quarterback, I think I'm okay with it for now.
Well, you guys ran two of the hell up out of town, so you better hope this one pans out.
You know what's interesting, though? If you look at the Dolphins' social media, for about 4 years, I had to suffer through slow motion spirals from Tua Tagovailoa to make it look artistic. The first time Malik Willis steps on the field, it's real time, like, oh, that's what Zip looks like. So, look, the social media team's on board. The Miami Dolphins are on board, and I think as long as he does what we think he's going to do, the town of Perfectville is going to be on board. We'll build a statue and name a street after him if he can get us 5 wins in 2026.
Well, the pick is in. And, relax. It's not a long snapper or a punter. We talked about the run-on linebacker starting somewhere. The Dolphins have selected Jacob Rodriguez.
Let's go. Let's go.
Part of the punch fumble.
Finally.
Let's freaking go.
Finally.
Oh, man, I love this kid.
This is an amazing pick. This is an amazing pick. And I seem to recall another linebacker out of Texas Tech who did okay for the Miami Dolphins in the late 90s and early aughts. In fact, he's got one of them yellow jackets. So, look, if history does repeat itself, if 1972 all over again, maybe it's late 90s, early 2000s all over again with a linebacker out of Texas Tech.
Well, I mean, looking at you, you got a little Larry Zonka resemblance there. So, and the width as well, I can tell. So, suit up.
Look, I'm a big fan of American Gladiators, which I think he's what he's most famously known for at this point, right? With Mike Adamle and the Zonkastrator.
It's coming back.
It's back?
The reboot's coming back in like a month.
Yeah, with a couple of my friends who are professional wrestlers, now known as like Animal and Zip or whatever their new names are. So yeah, I'm excited, man. Look, people are sleeping on the Miami Dolphins in 2026, but I'm here to tell you, if you think we're going to go 3 wins, I got news for you. 4 is on the table, boys.
4 baby.
Is on the table.
maybe 5 now with Jacob Rodriguez on the field.
He's like a war. He's like Shohei Ohtani. He just improves the team. You're going to get more wins just for football instead of baseball. In fact, if they drafted Shohei Ohtani, it would still be like my putt analogy. It would be better.
Over under on Malik Willis yards. I'll give you 2,800 over under.
Passing or running?
That is a very, very fair question.
Does it have to be forward yards, or can we count running backwards to save his life? You said 2,800 passing? 2,800 passing. Are there still 17 games in a season? Yeah, I'm going to go over. Let's go over. Who bets an under? Who wants to have a boring bet if I hope you only throws for one?
Unders are so boring.
I did with the QBs tonight.
Yeah. Well, that is true, but
smart money is smart money.
That's analysis. That's that's not betting.
Look, I think really what it is 2,800. Is that going to be Devon Achane's total yards from scrimmage, both running and passing the ball? Because look, I like this pick that they just did, but there is a glaring need in that wide receiver room. Look, he's Tutu Atwell. He's not Tutu Atgreat. They need somebody in that room for Malik Willis to throw the ball to outside of Devon Achane. That's all I'm saying. So look, at some point they're going to have to look at this and go, we have a glaring need here, and we gotta fix it.
That is a scary, scary room right now. You got a gadget guy who's all speed, and Tutu Atwell. You got Malik Washington, who I think barely surpassed 300 yards and a few touchdowns there. I do like Jalen Tolbert. I loved him when he was in Dallas, but I mean to ask a guy to have the roles he's had to come in there and try to be a wide receiver 1 and have a high level of targets. I mean, I don't love that room at all.
At best, he's wide receiver 2, not wide receiver 1.
How's Miami gonna like the Jacob Rodriguez stash, the mustache?
Have you been to Miami recently? The mustache is.
I was there a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, it's back. It's in vogue again. What's old is new again. The mustache can stay. Listen, he hits Geno Smith and knocks him down multiple times in a game. We'll all grow mustaches. If we win 5 games, we'll get the half-league cut. We'll just land planes on top of these flat tops. We're in, man. We are hurting. Give us anything. If somebody tackles somebody and it looks good, we'll get mustaches.
Let me just add that I guess the Jets have already given up because they were supposed to select after the Miami Dolphins, and I guess after that Jacob Rodriguez selection, they've thrown in the towel and they've traded down, and the Detroit Lions are now on the clock at number 44.
Which is now twice that the Miami Dolphins have done that to AFC East opponents. Last night, the Buffalo Bills said, man, we wanted Chris Johnson. You know what? We'll just try again tomorrow. So that's twice. Look what the Miami Dolphins are doing. They got good intel. They might have Belichick's guy spying on these teams.
I was just about to say to you, how do you want the Jets to screw up this pick?
By taking somebody. That's what I would – I mean, that's unfortunate. They actually did the right thing by the kid and by their own franchise by just saying we're not going to do it.
Especially the former.
Yeah. This will be Detroit's just second pick, right, of this draft.
Detroit is selected, and they get an outstanding edge rusher, Derek Moore from Michigan, one of my favorites. They need another edge rusher there.
They love
Derek
Michigan.
Moore. He's an explosive player. You can stand him over tackle. You can have him come out of a 3-point stance. He was the only guy that was able to stop him at the Senior Bowl was Max Iannacore. He was beating everybody. In fact, remember that video that went viral when he knocked Markel Bell on his rear end, despite the fact that Bell had 100 pounds on him. So the Detroit Lions hope to answer their need at edge rusher with Derek Moore of Michigan. Love this pick, and I'm glad he went this early.
Before we let you go, Sam, where do we get Perfectville?
You can check us out on the Believe Network, all the major platforms. You can find me. I'm usually swearing, and there's a lot of F-bombs in front of somebody's name who's associated with the Miami Dolphins. So if you like swearing and you like a guy who's drinking on camera, I'm the show for you, baby. The town of Perfectville. Welcome to Perfectville. You can find us on the Believe.com network. Also, just a quick plug. I really like Peaky Blinders on Netflix. If you haven't watched it.
Oh, baby. Absolutely. Fantastic. What'd you think of the movie? We won't give it any away.
I did like the movie. I forgot because there was so much time between the movie and the end of the show that like I just went into the movie raw dogging it like, all right, we're gonna watch this movie, and all of a sudden I'm like, you know what? I should have went and rewatched the last season because they were talking about people. I'm like, I don't know who that is. So I was a little bit lost, but I just faked it until I made it and got to the end of it, and it was beautiful. I love the ending. It's how the show should have ended, in my opinion.
I'm with you. I'm with you, brother. Big fan of your work. Appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you, gentlemen. Enjoy the rest of the night. Fins up.
Sam Marcotte from Perfectville. All right, Jason, what do you make it of your Lions pick?
Look, we've been complaining about a pass rusher opposite Aiden Hutchinson for a long time. Why not go back to his old stomping grounds and go get a guy, right? This has been essential in this defense, to be real with you. I mean, I've been there. I've witnessed it. Aiden is an absolute dog, like freaking dog. We've been waiting to get this guy another running mate and a running partner opposite him because Aiden just commands so much attention. And I think I love Derek Moore. I love the motor that this kid plays with. And I think from that relentless standpoint, he very much so fits the Dan Campbell mold in terms of the way he plays the game. He plays the game the right way. Can garner pressure, things of that nature. I think he's a complete player as well. I don't think he's a liability in any kind of way when it comes to the run game or pass game. I like the pick. I do.
Yeah. Moore is I thought he was ridiculously undervalued. I really thought at some point in time he was potential late first-round pick. I think the Lions organization and the fans are going to be very pleased with Derek Moore. He's got great upside.
Agreed.
Yeah, these past two picks have been, I think real good scheme fits because Jacob Rodriguez is excellent in pass coverage, and you just kind of look at what the Dolphins are going to do when they go in, with Jeff Hafley as a coach. They're going to play a bunch of zone. You watch his tape playing zone, like his eyes, his ability to move and jump routes is so elite. And then Derek Moore is just a pocket collapse. You guys have touched on it. I didn't like him as much in the run game, but again, he is a tremendous upside, and they needed an edge rusher. And both these teams, I think, hit home run picks.
Ravens pick in, Tony?
Yes, it is, and it is Zion Young. He finally comes off the board. The tall defensive end. He's a little bit slim. I shouldn't call him big. Explosive edge rusher out of Missouri, an athletic guy, a guy with a relentless motor. I thought he would have gone a little bit higher. Maybe that frame kind of scared some teams off, but I think the Ravens got a keeper in Zion Young.
Before we let you go, Jason, thoughts on the pick?
Sorry, you cut out a little bit. I didn't get the name.
Zion Young.
Zion Young.
Zion Young of Missouri, the big tall edge rusher.
Okay. Oh wow. Okay. I like it. I like Zion. I do like Zion. Got some length.
Absolutely. Nice. He's athletic as well.
Yeah, he got some length. He's athletic. Reminds me a little bit of what's this Bears pass rusher that was just here from Mississippi State?
Montez Sweat.
Yeah, Montez. A little bit. Okay. I don't mind it. Can't be mad.
All right. Before we let you go, Jason.
Yeah.
What are we plugging? Where are we finding Cabinda?
Plug the socials, man. At Jason Cabinda, really across the board, social wise. You guys catch me on GMFB, Good Morning Football, and we're now on ESPN, still NFL Network. But man, catch me on all those things.
Jason, really, I got to ask you, the Tampa Bay Bucks pick is in. It's Josiah Trotter. We'll get to that. But I got to ask you, who is the next Penn State player off the board?
Ooh, that's a great question. The next Penn State player off the board is going to be between three guys. I think some guy who really helped himself at the combine was Dennis Sutton. Dennis Sutton helped himself a ton at the combine. I think the biggest question is how fast was this kid going to run? He went out there and ran a 4.6, which I don't think anybody expected him to run. He's got a great length. He's got great IQ. He plays hard as hell. I do think that there were times that he kind of got off the gas a little bit, and I think that was more of a culture issue that was going on at Penn State necessarily than him. But, man, from that standpoint, I thought he made himself a lot of money. I think a team could take a swing on Drew Allard. As much as he may be a polarizing quarterback and how everything went down this past season and things of that nature, obviously he got hurt as well. He's recovered and he's good to go now. But I think there's just a lot of talent in this kid. We talk about eye tests and you talk about some of the throws that this kid can make and the way the ball comes off his hand effortlessly, we know how much the NFL loves talent and believes that they're going to be able to develop it. So I could see a team taking a little swing on Drew Aller and then Zakee Wheatley, the safety, who I don't think a lot of people are talking about at all. I mean, it reminds me a lot of Jaquan Brisker from a standpoint of running the alley, tackling, great body control. Not a great man-to-man safety. I don't see him majoring in that. But, man, he's a great communicator. He plays the game the right way. He's always where he needs to be from an IQ standpoint. So I like those three guys, DDS, Zakee Wheatley, and Drew Aller.
Phenomenal. Jason Cabinda catching him on Good Morning Football. Been loving the work there, man. Can't wait to see the next appearance. And we really appreciate you joining us here the last couple nights on Draft Night Live.
No doubt, man.
It was a pleasure.
You guys. Good luck rest of the night.
Absolutely. We let go Jason and we bring into the conversation Colts expert Logan Hancock coming in out of our green room. Logan,
what's up, guys?
How are you tonight?
I'm fantastic. I was actually at the draft yesterday in Pittsburgh, so the vibes were high. It was fun.
So where do you want your Colts to go here?
I'm kind of bummed right now because I was really thinking that Jacob Rodriguez would be available here. That's who I had my eyes on most of the offseason, but I would go Anthony Hill Jr. I think the Colts have one of the worst linebacker cores right now in the NFL entering the 2026 season. So I think Anthony Hill Jr. could be a guy that's a plug-and-play guy right away. If they don't go linebacker, I would go D'Angelo Pons. They just lost Kenny Moore. I think D'Angelo Pons, Indiana guy, would be a great fit to come in and play slot corner right away as well. That would be my two dream scenarios. So we shall see.
What do we think of the last pick here by the Buccaneers?
I absolutely love Josiah Schroeder. I think you look at it, you lost Levante David. I think that, he's a redshirt sophomore, could have, stayed in school a little bit longer for his development, but when coming downhill, he is not scared to hit. He lays the wood on people. There's a little bit of inconsistencies of where he washes himself out of the run sometimes. Not the best athlete while in coverage, but I look at this guy. He was one of my favorites while watching him because he just plays with such an edge and isn't scared to hit people.
Great range, goes sideline to sideline, outstanding in pursuit. I mean, he's not the coverage is just a system sort of thing, and he's going to need more experience, but he's not stiff pedaling in reverse. He's got tremendous athleticism. Obviously, the bloodlines are there. I think this is they get Ruben Bain in round 1. They get Josiah Trotter in the second round. They fill two needs with two exceptional players. Talked about the Cleveland Browns doing a great job. I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are also really at the top of the list of teams that have helped themselves the past day and a half, I guess, because we're halfway through the day and a quarter, I guess, because we're a quarter of the way through day 2.
Logan, you were just in Pittsburgh. It appears your Colts pick is going to Pittsburgh.
Oh, that, you know what? Doesn't surprise me. Ballard is a big trade back guy, so that was definitely in the Colts Twitter sphere, I would say. A lot of people talking about possibilities of Ballard trading back, so does not shock me.
Got to ask you before we let you go, how do you feel now about the Ahmad Gardner trade or the Sauce Gardner trade?
I personally think that we need to see Sauce Gardner at full health for a full season first before I can really give you a good feeling on that per se. But I think when he's at full health, I would much rather have a guy who's been a former All-Pro, right, as a proven top 3 corner in the NFL when he's healthy, than a guy that is kind of a dart, at this point at the stage of the game. So, yeah, we'll have to see next year. But if he gets back to that All-Pro play, I think it still is worth it.
Yeah, I think he was underrated. People complained he didn't have a lot of interceptions, but he was still a terrific cornerback. And the problem with Gardner was he was so sensational as a rookie. I mean, better than Darrelle Revis as a rookie. It was going to be tough to ever top what he did as a rookie in the NFL. But you're right. If he's healthy, he's
Yeah.
a darn good cover corner.
What's the? Do you guys have any more details on the trade to Pittsburgh?
I mean, this
Big
much I
draft.
know. You traded down to 53.
Right.
Okay, 53. Yeah.
You got you traded on the 53.
Yeah, I see it now.
You see it, yeah.
Yeah, so it looks like Colts got 53rd overall, and then in the 4th round, 135th overall, and then a 7th round pick, 237. And the Steelers got 47th overall pick and a 7th round pick. So, yeah, looks like we basically gained a 4th round pick out of it for all intents and purposes.
Do you still do you still like your guy at 53 here? You still want to go to the same spot?
Yeah, I mean, if he's available for sure, Anthony Hill Jr. I still think is the best bet. Ballard is also a big D line guy, but unfortunately, a lot of his defensive line picks, right, in his tenure have just not really hit. Really, the only one that has worked out was one that he traded for in DeForest Buckner, for the 13th overall pick a few years back. So. I don't know. I really do think that they need some linebacker help because, like I said, I think they're one of the weakest linebacker cores entering the 2026 season right now. I just do not feel comfortable at all with who they've got out there at the moment.
Pick is in for the Steelers.
What do you got?
Steelers select Jeremy Bernard, the wide receiver, the natural, reliable pass catcher from University of Alabama. Not the fastest guy in the world, but runs great routes, catches everything that's thrown in his direction. I talked to Robert Spears from the safety from Oklahoma, and he couldn't stop gushing about what a great route runner Bernard is, even though he's a taller receiver. He's not a short little guy, Bernard, just under 6'2", 206 pounds. Ran a 4.37 at the combine, which is much faster than everybody thought. So the Steelers needed a receiver. They lost out on Mekhi Lemon last night. They come back in round 2 and take Jeremy Bernard.
Okay.
Hopefully they didn't call him until they were actually on the clock this time.
All right, we'll let you go for now. Logan, really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, for sure. I can come back on for the Colts pick too if you guys want to have me back on him.
I wasn't gonna presume, but we would love to have you back.
Yeah.
All right.
Sounds good, guys. I'll see you guys in a bit.
We'll see you in a little bit. What do you make of the Bernard pick, Daniel?
I think a bunch of fans really kind of underrated him, but I mean, Tony hit on it. Like, he is a technician as a route runner. He just always seems to get open, really good hands. Again, I think he's a better playmaker than people give him credit for. I think when, Kalen DeBoer used him in a ton of creative ways, he's not going to beat you with pure speed over the top. He's not that elite at high pointing the ball, but he's just a reliable receiver. And again, he's not going to be asked to be this guy who's going to have to go down the field, make these crazy catches, because they already have DK Metcalf, already have Michael Pittman. I think this is a really good compliment for that system and that offense.
We've got on the line, we got Dave Ribeiro on the line. Let's bring him into the conversation. Our Steelers guy. Tried to get you on last night. We want to get you in here. Dave, what do you think of the pick?
Now we can't hear him.
Oh, no.
Dave.
His mic isn't connected.
All right, we tried.
Poor Dave. I feel bad. I'm the guy who.
Very bad. Yeah. All right, we'll try. We'll try again.
Oh, man.
Try again. All right.
Ugh.
Vikings are on the clock. And wait a second, Falcons.
The Falcons are on the clock right now. Then it's the Vikings.
Yeah.
I think what we got to look at is we got to look at some of the better guys that are still remaining on the board. Obviously, Jermod McCoy. Go back to what I said at the beginning of the show. He could fall out of the secondary altogether. Avion Terrell, the cornerback, is there. Avion Terrell is no longer there because the Atlanta Falcons just selected him.
Oh, that's actually
Pair him with his brother.
The Falcons, they got the Terrell brothers. I don't know if they're going to try and get a 2-for-1 deal, but corner was in need, and he's a terrific shutdown corner. Obviously, the speed and the hamstring were an issue in the lead up to the draft, which is why he fell. But I think, at this point in the draft, it's not a reach to say the Falcons potentially got a first-round cornerback midway through the second round.
without a doubt,
mean,
in terms of the mocking.
You look at this secondary now. You obviously have his brother and AJ. They drafted Billy Bowman, Xavier Watts from last year. You have Jesse Bates. This is the makings of a pretty good defensive back room. You have Mike Hughes there as well. I'm really liking this this defensive back room that Atlanta has constructed. And I was a little bit lower on Terrell, but again, the slide here to go this late, I think this is good value.
Good value,
yeah,
absolutely. All right, so Terrell goes to the Falcons. What do you make of the pick in your division, Luke?
Well, I don't love it for the Saints because I think Terrell's a great player and he could be a really good corner one day. I do like the fact that they paired him with his brother, though. I mean, that's just a cool story, but also like they're both pretty good corners. They get like Daniel was just saying that secondary's looking a little dangerous. I guess they saw us take Jordan Tyson and said, "All right, let's go grab another cornerback."
We got to come up with some nicknames already. Yeah, not just the brothers. We got there's got to be a cool nickname.
I'm
around
sure
that
Atlanta Falcons
T2.
It's a start.
Not too bad.
Yeah,
we'll look at Twitter later. I'm sure they got something.
Okay. All right. We'll see what happens. All right. Vikings are on the clock here. We want to show you a little snippet of the interview we did with newly minted Hall of Famer and Vikings legend Jared Allen joins Draft Night Live. You got to go. Go. You got three. You got like three and change. All right, we will work on the audio here. Unfortunately, got an audio issue on our end, so let's bring Luke and Tony back into the conversation. Let's see what we got here. The Vikings. The Vikings have not made their selection yet.
Yeah, they took that big swing on Caleb Banks in round 1, so I'm very interested to see what they do here.
You're saying there's a pick, Jeff?
No, I did not show a pick.
Got it. Okay. Where do you want him to go here, Luke?
Oh, well, Ian Rappaport just said the Panthers are on the clock at 49, so I guess they traded up with the Vikings.
Aha. All right. That'll give us another chance to getting Jared Allen into the show. All right, so the Panthers are on the clock here, according to Ian Rappaport. What are the Panthers trading up here for, Daniel?
Panthers traded up to 49.
To 49 with the Vikings, apparently.
Well, I think two things come to my mind. I think receivers, obviously, one of them. Well, a bunch of people had potential receiver getting mocked there in round 1. Again, I think they can just pick best player available on the defensive end here too.
Yeah.
I think Emmanuel McNeil-Warren might be up there.
They must have somebody they're coveting, and maybe ahead of the Jets. Tony, the Panthers have reportedly traded up to the 49th pick here with the Vikings.
Could be. Well, they went offensive line last night. I mean, you would think this is an area where Eli Stowers would go, but I don't think they would have to trade up in front of the Jets to get Eli Stowers. The Jets, who took another tight end last night.
There's 2 picks they traded.
Could also be for a linebacker. I mean, they may want to. They had a big linebacker signing in the offseason, so it may be for a guy like Anthony Hill or C.J. Allen who are still on the board.
I mean, Luke, they've clearly got somebody in mind.
Yeah, I hope it's. Well, as a Saints fan, I don't want them to do well, but for Bryce Young's sake, as a Bryce Young I actually do like Bryce Young, so I hope that they get him another receiver and, keep buying into this whole, this is your year to really prove it. And because they got him as left tackle. So go out, get him, a Chris Bell, a Skylar Bell, even, Chris Brazzell still there, Malachi Fields, Antonio Williams. There's a bunch of receivers out there. So I hope they go get one of those guys for him.
I mean, you touched on it, Luke. I mean, Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. I mean, jumping the Jets. I think that makes a ton of sense to jump here. And
one last question.
Go get him. So I think that's a very real possibility. And again, Eli, I don't know. I don't think they would have had the trade up to get Eli Stowers, but if they make that pick, that's another one that's a very real possibility.
Also, I mean, I don't know. With the Panthers being the market for a defensive tackle, Lee Hunter still on the board. I ask because I don't know. Manuel McNeil-Warren, I guess at this point would also make sense.
Yeah,
they have Derek Brown. They signed to Sean Wharton last year. Right. I mean, they could potentially be coming up for that nose tackle and Lee Hunter, but I personally don't think that's a big need here. But we'll have to see what they end up going with.
Carolina gave 51 and 196. They got 159 back with the 49th pick. The pick is apparently in.
I haven't gotten it yet. Now, the interesting thing is they traded up with the Vikings. And remember what I said last night when I said in the article? It is Lee Hunter. They jumped the Jets to select Lee Hunter, the big defensive tackle from Texas Tech. I think it's a good move. He's an athletic guy. He's a 3-down player. He's not just a gap occupier. He's a guy who makes plays on the ball. He can shoot the gaps to penetrate the line of scrimmage and get behind the line of scrimmage. And again, I think this is also to make sure that they stayed ahead. I know they were ahead, but to ensure that they got Lee Hunter, because as I wrote and as I said at the top of the show, the Green Bay Packers were really looking to draft Lee Hunter with that 52nd selection.
Second team All-American. Didn't test well at the combine.
Yeah, I think that's a major reason why I feel like after the Senior Bowl, he had a really good Senior Bowl and a bunch of people were high on him, but I feel like he just didn't test well. Again, he has that 3-down potential. I didn't see enough flashes within, just the hands and just the quickness. But again, he has the power. He can stop the run. A good, decent lateral agility for his size. So I didn't think it was a major need for the Panthers, but again, the value here, where they got him, I don't hate the pick.
Yeah.
Everybody focused on David Bailey and Romello Height at Texas Tech. I think they really missed Lee Hunter, who was consistently making plays and providing opportunities for those two players to make plays. Jets are on the clock. McNeil-Warren is still there if they like him. Manuel Pregnon, they could also use an offensive guard. They need linebackers. Anthony Hill and C.J. Allen are still available. So the Jets, even though they may have lost out on Lee Hunter, if that was what Carolina thought, still an opportunity to pick up a good player that can start as a rookie this upcoming season.
Yeah, we see if they can keep this run of good form going in the draft, because I had a pretty good first round too.
I mean, the Browns, they're chasing the Browns now. In terms of
They don't have a 3rd-round pick either, so linebacker would make sense to me here because, again, like we talked at the top of the show, I don't love the day 1 starting linebacker depth on day 3, so I think it has to be linebacker or McNeil-Warren here.
By the way, the league has announced that the Ravens are going to take on the Cowboys in the 2026 Rio game.
Oh,
interesting game in Rio de Janeiro. That in terms of best player available here, Tony, is it Pregnon?
Well, if we take Jermod McCoy out of the equation, which I think we're going to have to, I've got C.J. Allen. I then have Anthony Hill. So you got 2 linebackers there, Emmanuel Pregnon, and then Chris Brazzell, the receiver from Tennessee, who I am much higher on than most people.
Gotcha.
I guess I just saw C.J. Allen a little bit differently than a lot of people because, he made my top 25 on my big board. I just really loved what I saw from him. And I know the injury was there, but, he ran, he tested fine. So I'm kind of surprised that he's still here. But
Just
again,
one last question.
teams are obviously lowering him for a reason. So we'll have to see what that is.
It also wasn't amazing. I mean, it was a meniscus in November. He had surgery. He went through the pre-draft process. He did position drills. So I would agree with you. I think he's a bit underrated. Wasn't a great pass rusher, but he wasn't asked to rush the passer that much. But if you're looking for a sideline to sideline off-ball linebacker, Allen is definitely your guy. 6'1", 230. That probably concerns some teams. Not only the lack of size, but the lack of growth potential.
Who will join the trio of Bailey, Sadiq, and Cooper with the Jets? The pick is apparently in.
The Jets have selected, well, everybody's favorite player, D'Angelo Pons.
Oh,
quarterback from
there we go. Yeah,
I like that a lot.
Wow.
I think it's a terrific pick. He's a terrific player, as Jason was mentioning, how good this guy is. Or as I said to Jason, if he was 3 or 4 inches taller, he's a top 15 choice. I mean, this is a guy who's got great cover skills, stays with receivers all over the field, stays on their hips out of breaks, and he's very competitive. I mean, you go back, you watch the Ohio State game. He was battling Jeremiah Smith. He was battling Cornell Tate against Miami. He got in the face of all the Miami receivers. He does not back down to any challenge at all.
Tony, you're not secretly doing scouting for the Jets here, are you? It's crazy in terms of just the value, the intelligence of these picks.
I offered the Jets my services free of charge a long time before as I was getting into the business. I guess they figured they knew much more than me, so they never hired me. So no, I am not.
I mean, we're in a very weird world where we have the Jets and the Browns, who are two of the biggest
fighting for the A+ grade.
And again, like with Pons, obviously you talk about the size, but he is not scared to go fill in the run. And Tony just mentioned that Ohio State game. Like Jeremiah Smith got the best of him for a good amount of reps in that game, and it doesn't matter because in the fourth quarter, it just doesn't look like it affected him at all. He's still giving it his all. He doesn't, he still plays with that confidence no matter what. And yeah, this is another good pick. The Jets are just, absolutely killing it today.
Well, the thing about the Jets is, and I can tell you this, the Jets always win April. The problem is September when the season begins.
Yeah,
so,
5 weeks into the season. This
is the Jets Super Bowl.
Undefeated. All right, the Vikings are on the clock. We're gonna give this one more try to bring Vikings legend, Hall of Famer, newly minted 2025 Hall of Famer Jared Allen onto Draft Night Live. Just one last question. I obviously it's a huge thrill to get that gold jacket, but I know how the passion that you had for being a Viking, going back and leading the Skull chant and the way they just absolutely embraced you as a rock star. It was just this absolute moment, like you were Prince in Minnesota.
You know what? Minnesota's been great to me. And I think it's a connection. It's you're in the Midwest, right? And Midwest just has a way of being, it just feels a little more authentic. I mean, people seem to be a little more genuine, a little more authentic. It helps that I'm Norwegian. I got family from, Minnesota, North Dakota. But I think that's my connection to the team was I think the fans truly understood I loved what I did, right? And I was raw, I was open, I was just myself, right? And I think there's a connectivity there based on a relatability. You know what I mean? I don't think they necessarily saw me as this NFL player. I was the guy that was going to show up and give everything I got and show appreciation for them for spending their hard-earned dollars to come watch us play. And we had some good seasons, so it worked out well. And but yeah, Minnesota's been great to me. They always treat me they always greet me with open arms, and I've been able to do some fun things. I got to take my kids to go to the Morgan Wallen concert there a couple of weeks ago, so that was a blast. They've been great. And and still after all these years,
wouldn't have a hard time getting tickets.
Well, there at least, right? Other places I'm just a housemaid. I've been out of the game a while. I just drive my kids around now. But Minnesota, when they come back all these years later, they still treat me as if I'm still playing. So it's always nice. It's always nice to go back and now and shake hands with people and show even more appreciation, especially as guys that I grew up with. I say grow up with, but my career started. You take like Jeff Anderson.
Vikings
he was down. He was my PR handler, one of my PR handlers. Now he's the head of the whole division, right?
From Cincinnati.
So it's good to see the growth of everybody else's careers as well, and just actually go back and spend time connecting with people. When you're playing, sometimes those relationships are kind of skewed because you're always all over the place. They don't always get to get as deep as you'd like. And as I've gotten older, that's probably my fondest thing about the whole Vikings organization is the depth of my relationships, and the community's just still been great.
That's awesome. Well, you're never going to be a has-been among true NFL fans, and especially those watching us here tonight. So, Jared Allen, 2025 Hall of Famer, and Fourth and Need is the podcast, by the way. That Jared mentioned. That's why he's got the nice podcast mic right there in front of him. So
I gotta give Fred all the credit for that. I told him, I was like, I'll do a podcast with you, but you gotta hook me up with the gear. I don't know what I'm doing. So we just talk nonsense. We don't talk anything relatively important.
It's a good hang. It's a good hang for sure.
It is good hang.
I appreciate you going there. Seriously, it's nice to get the quite honestly, just any bit of Jared Allen we can get in terms of your personality, man. I just always one of the folks I enjoyed the most. It was just pure passion for the game, but just pure passion for life, and that came through in everything you did and everything you do.
I appreciate that. That means the world.
Vikings pick is in again. Huge thank you to Jared Allen for joining us. You can catch the rest of the interview on the Essentially Sports social on X and on YouTube. The pick is in, Tony, for the Vikings.
Vikings select Jake Galladay, the off-ball linebacker from University of Cincinnati. Smart guy with terrific size and growth potential, 6'4.5", 239 pounds. Not super athletic, but athletic enough. Makes as many plays with his head as he does with the sheer athletic skills. This is an outstanding selection. They needed a linebacker. I think the thing we're going to eventually have to talk about is they bypassed a safety last night. Dylan Thieneman this evening, Emmanuel McNeil Warren on two different occasions.
I guess we just don't feel that we have the same needs.
I mean, yeah, to a sense, but again, safeties, it happens every year where I feel like, even I got caught up in this year where like you just watch them, and I've really loved this safety class. But again, when they pick again in round 3 or round 4, I don't know when their next pick is. Like you still have Emmanuel McNeil Warren, who's still on the board. AJ Halsey's still on the board. Wheatley's still on the board. Bud Clark, like there's a ton of guys here. Now, obviously, they're the same players as the ones who went last night, and Emmanuel McNeil Warren, Lord, that's kind of a little bit of a different conversation. But in terms of Golladay, like he is a very big another guy who Brian Flores can move around realistically anywhere. He kind of played a weird position at Cincinnati, kind of that overhang slot linebacker position where that doesn't really translate to the NFL in my opinion too much. So this is another guy who is lengthy, rangy. Tackles a little bit too high, but that's just kind of nitpicking. And Vikings have really tried to bolster up this defense.
104 tackles, 3.5 sacks last year. Former defensive end Jake Galladay goes to the Vikings.
Maybe it's the fact that a lot of people were just overrating Emmanuel McNeil Warren. When I look at the board at Essentially Sports, I mean, I have him ranked as the 56th player in the draft on the overall board, and we're heading towards 56. So, my point on Emmanuel McNeil Warren is I know he had great stats, but he was more opportunistic than he was a refined cornerback. And I know there were some off the field concerns, if you will, or there were some issues that teams were looking in. I never had him as a first round choice. He's got good size. But I think you got to look a little bit deeper. You got to look at the film a little bit deeper and some other things, which is why he's still available.
Well, yeah, for me too. I mean, I had him at 40 on my board, so I get a little bit higher than you. But I looked at he's a really good downhill filling, the run game. But again, I felt like the lanes he chose, the angles, they're really inconsistent at times, and he's really good at coming downhill on routes over the middle. But I felt like opening up and truly being that free safety, I felt like he struggled a little bit more. I think people were just kind of betting on just the size. I mean, he's a rare 6'3", 4'5", 240 at the combine. Like that size is, it gets distracting a little bit at times. I feel like when you have these kind of safeties. So again, not to dog on him as a player, but I feel like we got a little too excited about him as a round one player. So day two, I perfectly was on board with that the entire time, but where I kind of saw him getting mocked was a little bit, suspect at times.
And the fact is, you can get downhill safeties in the third, fourth, and even fifth round. You don't have to use a top 45, top 60 pick. He still could go top 60. And the speed was an issue. I mean, he ran 4.52 during pro day, or at the combine, which is, I think, faster than he expected, but it's still not great speed. I was told, and I reported on Essentially Sports, people from Toledo told me outright he backed out of the Senior Bowl because he was afraid he was going to get exposed because he's just not fast. And I'm sure NFL teams knew that.
Packers pick is in. It's Brandon Cisse from South Carolina, cornerback.
Yeah, this is a pure, project corner in my opinion. I liked his athletic traits. I liked, everything about his, his size, his speed, again, but when it comes to the coverage ability, there's a lot to work with there. There's a lot of refinement needs to really work on how to play the ball in the air. But this is more of we're betting on the upside. We hope he can develop into something because, he has the traits, he has the measurables. It's just, we really need to refine it and, get it to be ready to be a reliable corner on the outside.
I agree about the ball skills or lack of ball skills because if you watch him play, all he does is face guard. I mean, he physically beats down and he basically tries to, win out for the contested defense, if you will. The thing about Cisse is people were branding him as this big athletic cornerback with great upside. 5'11 and a half, 189 pounds, so he doesn't hit that 6 foot mark. And then he runs a 4.43 during pro day when everyone thought he was going to run, in the 4.3s. So he didn't really check the boxes that people expected. The Colts have made their selection. We had our Colts visitor on before who was hoping they would get a linebacker. They did take a linebacker, and that linebacker is C.J. Allen out of Georgia. He is finally
what do we think here, Logan?
Honestly, yeah, I'm just glad that it was a linebacker. Either Anthony Hill Jr. or CJ there from Georgia. I'm cool with either. Really just glad that Chris Ballard did the right thing to shore up the linebacker position more than anything. I will say I was higher on Anthony Hill Jr., but yeah, me personally, I'm kind of shocked. What are your guys' thoughts on why he's dropping a little bit further than some of the mock drafts that I've seen that had him at?
Anthony Hill?
Yeah, I feel like he was kind of mocked around that 50 spot, I'd say.
If the Eagles pick is in, the Eagles select Eli Stowers, the tight end. But getting back to Hill, if you followed me, if you follow our pro day reporting, I'd said that a lot of teams were turned off, believe it or not, by his body because they said he had a soft body. He didn't come to pro day looking like he was ready to play football. Now, the tape doesn't flesh that out. Pun on words there, flesh it out. I think teams were a little bit put off by the pro day just by the way he looked. And they were concerned that he did not put the necessary work in. He's a terrific player. I mean, you watch him on film. He had some good workouts. He's very explosive, not the biggest guy in the world, but an outstanding run and chase linebacker.
All right, Logan, what are you plugging before we let you go here?
Yeah, so I create NFL content full time for the Colts and just other NFL teams as well. It's just at pro fan Logan, and yeah, looking forward to watching the rest of the draft with you guys.
Awesome. We appreciate you jumping back on here after the trade.
Of course, yeah. Have a good night, guys. Enjoy.
You as well. All right, we got Jay all day back with us. Eli's your guy. What do you think? What are you thinking on this, Jay?
Hear me? Am I here? Yeah, there we are.
There
What's going on, guys? I love the pick. I mean, if you look at what he did at the combine, I mean, just these numbers. Just take a look at this, guys. He ran a 4.51, 45.5 vert, an 11-foot 3-inch broad jump. Woo! This dude's a freak, man. This dude's a freak. And he's got pretty good hands. And obviously, all the tight ends on the Eagles roster their contracts are expiring at the end of this year. So they need to fill that void. I am a little shocked that Emmanuel McNeil-Warren is still on the board. And because the Eagles' safety room it's Andrew Makuba coming off injury and then nobody else.
The Patriots have traded up to the 55th pick.
There you go.
Waiting to see what the details are here, but
Patriots traded way up. I mean, they went from 63 to 55. So
That's a big move.
Imagine that a third-round choice could be involved to move up the 9 slots here.
Yeah, that's a big move, guys.
I truly do wonder who it could be for, because they went Lomu on day 1, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
they did. Offensive lineman. You got to think. I'm sorry for cutting you off. I'm looking at Gabe Jackus is still available, and they need an edge rusher.
Oh yeah, Jackus is still available. Yeah.
That may be why they made such a big move up boards.
Prototypical guy in the Patriots way.
Yeah, because the Bears have those picks in front of them, and they need edge. So
pick is in, and it is Gabe Jackus.
There it is.
Great call. All right.
What are your guys' thoughts on Pregnon? Why is he falling so much? I like Pregnon, man. I think he's a monster.
There is some concerns that Pregnon. I was told that when he was at USC, he was a little bit difficult. There's also concerns that he may struggle to digest a complex offensive playbook.
Okay.
I would agree with you. I think we are way past the period where the rewards for Emmanuel Pregnon far outweigh the risk. I was not told of any sort of injury or anything like that. But I think
I thought he was in play at two in this round with the Cardinals, because I knew they were going to go offensive line. I thought Pregnon would be in the mix there for the Cardinals, but they went with DeSantis instead.
All right, Jay, give us the plug one more time before we let you go here.
All right, I appreciate you guys having me on. Just check out the Jay All Day NFL show on YouTube, breaking down the NFL offseason, regular season, bets, picks, you name it, guys. So thanks again for having me. Appreciate you guys.
Right back at you. Huge thanks for joining us, Jay. All right. So the Patriots.
I love that pick. I was really high on Jackus, 6'4", 260 pounds. I mean, this is another guy who's a very heavy-handed guy. Uses power to win majority of the time. Illinois kind of lined him up sometimes as that 4-eye kind of defensive end, or he would come off that 2-point stance. Again, I think he has enough speed when he gets off that edge, lines up his hips, and just generates power from that lower body. He can set an edge, which I know Mike Vrabel is going to rely on a lot and like a lot. So, I think this is a really good pick. I liked him to the Lions a bunch throughout the early draft or the draft process, but again, they went with Derek Moore earlier, and to the Patriots, I think it's a really good fit.
Yeah, and he's athletic too. I mean, he's not just an up-the-field guy. He's got a good change of direction. He can get down the line of scrimmage, pursue the action. I like his instincts. I think this is – and you look – I mean, you got the Bears with 2 selections. You got the Niners there. I mean, all of those teams could have taken Jackus, which is why the Patriots very likely made the move up.
They gave 63 let's see here.
63, 131, and 202.
Thank you. Couldn't read it quick enough. Luke, any thoughts on Gabe?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly I didn't do a lot of looking into him until he got some hype towards the closer to the draft. So I didn't know as much about him as some of these other edge rushers. But excuse me, New England definitely needed some pass rush help, and they didn't go with it in round 1. They went with the tackle instead. Which, I mean, I thought they were going to go the other way around and maybe try to get an offensive lineman in round 2. But, if you can get somebody like Jackus, who, everybody seems to be pretty high on, seems like some good value. And to make the move for it, you got to go get you guys.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I like it.
I'm always, I always love teams who just just say screw it, let's go get our guy. We saw the Texans do it earlier with McDonald.
Yep.
Saw it last night with the Chiefs. You can't just sit there and be patient, because now you look at the Giants, who they wanted McDonald, like Tony was saying. Now I'm not saying Colton Hill was a bad pick, but then you just kind of lose out and have to go to a backup plan. So again, Patriots make a good move here. And Jaguars are next, I'm pretty sure. Which
Jaguars
first
are
pick
on
for
the
them?
clock.
Yeah, Jaguars are on the clock. I mean, I think it's going to be either a running back, could be a linebacker. Remember, the Jaguars don't have the first round pick this year because of that trade for Travis Hunter a year ago. They do have 3 picks in the third round, and I think they were a little deflated yesterday when Seattle took Jadarian Price, because that was a running back that they were absolutely targeting. They would have moved up today if Jadarian Price had started to slide, but he's gone. I do know they like Emmett Johnson, the running back from Nebraska, but I think they view him more as a third-round prospect. Mike Washington's still on the board. They need a linebacker. Obviously, Anthony Hill's still out there. Depending on what they do, if they trade that, if there's a trade to work for their receivers, who they seem to, Brian Thomas, who they seem to
Branch is sitting there.
trade blocks and they can't get rid of. Maybe receivers is a consideration here.
Yeah, I mean, Branch is still sitting here.
Yeah, Tony, can I ask you real quick? After the Mike Washington workout at the combine, I felt like a lot of people were hyped on him. I was a little bit lower than him than I feel like we kind of got later in this process. What did you kind of feel like about his game?
I mean, I have him as a late second round pick. Now, I think, remember, the combine, all he did was run a 4.34, and that was it. That's all he did. I like his tape because he plays to that speed, but he's more of a between the tackles, downhill pounder. When you see a guy that runs a 4.34, you think of him as a perimeter runner. Washington wasn't a perimeter runner at Arkansas. He's a specific type of back. I think you want to keep him between the numbers. You can't ask him to run outside that much. If you basically build your scheme around him, or you put him in that sort of scheme, I think he's going to be very, very effective. I think it's a chance that he comes off the board in the second round. I'm looking here. He was my 51st rated player, so we're a little bit past that right now.
Yeah, I kind of felt the same. I watched him, and you anticipate the ability to be good on those zone stretches, but I just felt like he didn't have the necessary agility to kind of cut up field fast enough, and I think his vision was a little bit spotty. But again, he offers out of the backfield can catch the pass, so that's the good versatility there. So I just felt like a bunch of people were higher on Washington than me, so I just kind of want to ask you what you thought about him.
Did we find out what the Patriots gave away for moving up 9 spots?
I think it was a fourth rounder.
Yeah,
131 and 202.
Okay, so they did not give away a third round pick.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say I'm surprised that was all it cost to move up.
Yeah,
what was it, 9 spots?
That seems a lot cheaper than you would anticipate for a team that moves up almost 10 spots in the second round here, and especially in a draft where we've talked about it multiple times. Like this second round, there's a bunch of starters within this draft. So for a team to kind of move down that far and only get that much, I felt like it was a little light.
I mean, if that translates into a Brian Orakpo type, I'll take that all day.
Yeah. Oh, we have a trade.
Another trade.
Oh, the Vikings traded Jonathan Grenard to the Eagles for a third round pick and a third round pick next year.
Wow.
Oh,
Jacksonville has made the pick. You want to? I'm sorry. You want to continue on with your with the trade?
We can just go to the pick. We can talk about it later.
Yeah, this is to me, this is a bit of a strange one. The Jacksonville Jaguars, yes, they needed a tight end, but they take Nate Bokercher from Texas A&M.
What?
I think this is very early for Bokercher.
Yeah,
I like him. I don't love him. He's not really big. He's not really fast. He's very dependable. I project him as more of a number 2 tight end. Oscar Delp still available. Max Clare still available. Will Kazmara. There's a ton of tight ends that are still available. I think this would have been better off for the Jaguars if they really like this guy. They could have gotten one of those 3 picks in the third round that they have.
Yeah. That is very. He's 6'5", 245. He has the size. He's a decent blocker on the move. But that's very surprising. The fact that he went over guys like Sam Roush, Claire, Delp. I liked Raridan a lot, but yeah, that's very surprising.
But even Raridan is more, fourth round or late third round at best.
Yeah,
is this the reach of the draft?
This is the reach
far?
of the draft to me. Again, Tony talked like he is not like a real separator as a route runner. So this one actually, like, I'm generally kind of speechless. I can't believe he went here at like 56. That's a big reach in my opinion.
All right, well, we'll give you a minute to get your speech back. We'll bring in as the Bears are now on the clock. We'll bring in Larry Dyer from Bears Talk Underground. Larry, how are you?
What's up, boys? How we doing?
We are doing well. We're thrilled you're with us.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Where are you hoping they go here at 57?
You know what? I'm starting to lose guys that I thought might fall to us at 57. I mean, I knew it was a 32 spots between 25 and 57. A lot of guys you like are going to come off of the board, and it started almost immediately in the first round because we went with Thieneman in the first round. He wasn't supposed to be there, so I guess we were excited to have him, and we needed a safety. But then Peter Woods came off the board, Keldrick Fall came off the board, and then today, the run on defensive ends with our defensive tackle, Caden McDonald, that was somebody I really liked. TJ Parker is gone now. I thought we might get.
You were taking McDonald in the first, yeah.
Yeah, that was a possibility as well, and but I guess Thieneman was just too good to pass up. Brian Poles is a big best player available guy, and he must have been number one on the board for him at the time.
So who do you want here?
I mean, we still have a question at left tackle right now. So if there's a good tackle available on the board, I'd be good with that. And whoever I guess would be the best defensive end available, I think would be a good choice for the Bears as well. So.
I mean, you look at pass rusher, probably Josh Josephs, but that's still a bit early for Josephs. I have him more as a third round choice. The defensive tackle class after Christian Miller came off the board earlier, I think it kind of falls off a cliff.
Yeah,
and you're basically wait until day 3 before you get some of the other or the defensive tackle value. I think at this point in time, any defensive tackle is a bit of a reach.
Mm-hmm.
The pick is apparently in.
Okay. Well, I mean, the Patriots broke my heart a few minutes ago when they took Jackus. That was somebody that was supposed to be there for us.
That's why they traded up, right?
That's what we said. Because the Bears have 2 picks before had 2 picks before the Patriots, and they made that move up.
So are you guys living in the future? Because you got to be like 20 minutes ahead of the broadcast right now. Not only do you know who you got picks being traded, who's been picked, and I'm still sitting here waiting for them to make the announcement on Jacksonville.
Yeah, well, since it's worked so well the last 2 nights, next year we're going to charge admission, so get ready.
Yeah, putting up the paywall.
Like a portal or something that you're looking into over here.
I have high friends in high places.
There you go.
Or I just have high friends. I don't know what it is. Figure it,
What do you like here?
For the Bears, I mean, I think offensive tackle is a real potential here, but I just don't know which one they lean on. Again, I think you just kind of have to look at the remaining edges here. I mean, Kieran Crawford's a guy who's kind of gotten some hype the past couple of weeks. I don't think they would take Romello Height. I liked Jayshon Barham, but I don't think the Chicago Bears would. Josephs is probably the one guy because he has that that size that Dennis Allen typically likes. So I think it's probably going to go between Crawford.
Bears pick is in.
What do we got?
One position that you didn't mention that the Bears really could use, I know that they traded for it in the offseason, is center. The Bears have selected Logan Jones, the center from Iowa.
Ooh.
A lot of variety of opinions on him. More of a zone blocking guy, not a big guy, a lot like Lindenbaum, who came out of Iowa, in the sense that he's a little bit small, but he's smart, he's tough, very explosive, very athletic, very effective in motion or on the second level.
I dig it, man. Logan Jones was Linderbaum's replacement when he got drafted out of Iowa, and the surprise retirement of Drew Dahlman really kind of took the wind out of the sails. We thought we had our offensive line locked in for the next couple of years. and then he goes ahead and cuts the career short at 27 after the best year of his career, and made the Pro Bowl and everything like that. So this was a need the Bears didn't think they were going to have to address at this point. But I like them going after it and shoring up that position. We got Bradbury for this year, and Logan Jones can learn behind him because Bradbury's only with the Bears, or contractually at least, through 2026.
If you read our pro day coverage at Essentially Sports, I said that the Bears were going to take a center on day 2. No, I thought it was more Sam Hecht in the 3rd round than Logan Jones in the 2nd round. But, if you follow the pro day coverage, I mentioned how the Bears, each and every workout where there was an interior offensive lineman, specifically a center, they were sending scouting directors, they were sending their offensive line coach, they were sending their assistant offensive line coach. So this one came to fruition. Don't know if it was the correct player, but he obviously took a center on day 2 of the draft.
So knee-jerk reaction, how would you grade this?
I am not a huge fan of Logan Jones. I had him more as a day 3 pick, only because of the size and the lack of ability to move people off the line. I kind of felt the same way about Linderbaum, and he panned out incredibly well. I think he's got to get bigger and stronger. I think you're on to something when you say you can start Bradbury for 1 season. You get Logan Jones into a NFL weight training program, put some beef on him. He's incredibly athletic, and he's a good center. It's just that the lack of strength and the inability to move guys off the line concerned me.
Larry, can you stay on with us through 60?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Right.
I mean, they can take advantage of the situation. This is fun.
go.
You guys are leading me into the future. The Bears haven't made the pick yet, and yet I already know.
Here we go again. Here we go again. The Browns traded up with the Niners.
Yep.
The Browns are sending pick 70 and 107 to the Niners, and they're getting pick 58. So the Browns have traded. The Niners have traded out of round 2. The Browns have made the pick, and Emmanuel McNeil Warren of Toledo finally comes off the board at the 58th selection.
Wow.
There it is. And, they kind of needed some defensive back help. I mean, we've been talking about it. They're really, killing it. They saw the slide happen. Now, me and, Tony kind of touched on how we felt about McNeil Warren, but I mean, this is a perfect range for him. I mean, this is exactly where you can, take a chance on a player like that. So, yeah, Browns have really operated this draft.
You talk about us being in the future here. I mean, this feels like Bizarro world.
Yeah, this is. I can't remember the last time where I felt this strongly about a Browns draft class in a while. Because I mean, yeah, this is really good moves from them. And again, they attack a area of need and they get another player with high upside. So
the upside here and the value. Value here.
I guess the value's in the eye of the beholder. I'm looking at this. Yeah. I was not as high on McNeil Warren as I said earlier. He was number 50.
A couple picks below where you had him. Yeah.
56. So 50 goes 58. So I guess it is good value. Listen, I mean, you can't do anything but praise what the Cleveland Browns have done in this draft. It looks great on paper. We'll see if the new coaching staff is able to transition it to productive football come September.
And guys, I think we're ignoring the fact that Logan Jones has already achieved his first NFL accolade, because being chosen at 57, he's the new Mr. Hines.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, he gets the lifetime supply of Heinz ketchup.
What a lucky guy, man! He ges a lifetime supply. Like
the red
jacket and everything.
Yeah, the red jacket stood out for me there.
I hope he's a ketchup guy. Can you maybe trade that ketchup in for mustard or barbecue sauce or something?
Grey Poupon and a late.
I won't go that far, but yeah.
I'd honestly I'd rather be the 57 pick than the number 1 overall pick. Like, you get a lifetime supply like that. That honestly, that's more value to me. I mean, come on.
Yeah, the ketchup is number 1 on my condiments draft board.
I mean, come on. Like, it's so versatile. Like, you can do about anything with it. Like, good for Logan. Good for Logan Jones, man. That
lifetime supply is worth his whole rookie contract, probably.
Very nice.
I mean, probably, yeah. But I mean, good for him.
Houston Texans are on the board right now. Obviously,
wait a
the
second.
Oh, Chicago traded out.
Yeah, the Bears traded out.
Oh, did we trade out of the round?
The Bears
Yeah.
traded out.
Titans.
They traded it to the
Back to
Texans.
69.
to
Moved
the
back 9
Titans.
picks.
They traded to the Titans, not the Texans.
Excuse me, the Titans. Yeah.
So where do we fall back to now?
9 picks to
You're out of the
69.
second round. It looks like you're at the top of round 2.
You are at 69 now.
Yeah.
There you go.
You want to come back? Well, no. Let's see here.
We ain't gonna do that.
It's like what are we at? It's like 7 picks, yeah.
All right.
7-8 picks.
All right. We'll let you go for now, Larry.
Okay.
We appreciate you. We're sorry to see you go. Sorry to see you trade out.
Well, I was worried they were going to trade out of 57 and that we weren't going to have the Heinz ketchup guy. So I'm glad that we held on that and that Logan Jones is Mr. Heinz or Mr. 57 or whatever they're going to call him, and he's got his lifetime supply of ketchup.
Well, Larry, you got to do some barbecue, some hamburgers, and invite them over to use that lifetime supply.
Wear that red jacket. You get that red jacket, you better send out the selfie.
Amen. I will absolutely do that.
The next 2 picks have already been made. If you want to hang out and hear who it is, Larry.
Okay.
Another reach, as far as I'm concerned, at the tight end position by the Houston Texans, who take Marlon Klein of Michigan. And the Tennessee Titans run to the board with the card. They take linebacker Anthony Hill of Texas, University of Texas, who's finally off the board.
Wow. That's what the trade up was for. And you talk about it's a great pick.
Yeah, they need a linebacker, but just back to I'm really surprised that these are the 2 tight ends that have come off the board after.
The tight ends, yeah.
That is absolutely crazy to me. But when I saw that the Titans trade out, my first initial thought was Romello Height, because I know Saleh likes that wide 9 guy who can kind of scream up the field. But again, they need linebacker. Anthony Hill's a guy who's I felt like lacked a little bit of just quickness into his game, but I mean he has tremendous experience and he can start day one. And we talked about on a couple of the mock draft episodes. A lot of people had Styles to the Titans at 4, but Saleh likes to get these linebackers late and develop them. And if there's one person that I can believe Anthony Hill would become a star in the NFL with, it's Saleh. So.
Well, that's going to be the big debate going forward, right? How does the Anthony Hill do versus Sonny Styles in Washington under Dan Quinn? I mean, and you also obviously have to factor Carnell Tate in. It's Carnell Tate and Anthony Hill versus Sonny Styles, and people will wonder if the Titans, made a mistake. Getting back to the tight end that was selected, Marlon Klein. I had heard that people liked him and that he was moving up draft boards, 6'6", 248 pounds. But I mean, the production has been minimal. I think he's had 28 total catches the past 2 seasons. Was never 24 receptions, a career high 24 receptions, 248 yards, and 1 TD last season. That was his career best. I know that Michigan had problems throwing the football. This is an upside pick. This is a guy that you hope is going to pan out and potentially develop into a number 1 tight end 2 or 3 years down the road. But again, Max Clare still on the board, Oscar Delp still on the board, and you want to say that Oscar Delp shouldn't be a second-round pick? Okay, fine, but he should have definitely gone before Marlon Klein and Nate Bokercher.
Yeah.
Larry, give us the plug for the pod.
It's Bears Talk Underground. You can get it anywhere on Spotify, iTunes, and anywhere you get your podcasts. And we're pretty much going to be diving into this vast wasteland of the offseason now that the draft is going to be over with. There's nothing going on between like the schedule release and training camp. I'm going to be doing my opponent preview series where I'm talking to guests from every one of the Bears opponent teams this year.
All right. Huge thanks for joining us, Larry.
Appreciate it, guys. Take care.
All right, we got the Rams on the clock. We are 1 pick away from talking to Broncos legend Champ Bailey coming on to talk Broncos at 62.
This is the pick I've been most excited to see what it is this entire night. The Rams at 61. Obviously, we all know what happened last night. It's been talked about a ton. But are they going to go receiver? Are they going to go, offensive line depth? Are they going to add to the defense? We're going to find out here in a bit, but I still can't get over just seeing that, actually happen. The Simpson at 13. It was just crazy.
Well, we'll talk about that, why it's been rumored in the league that happened later on. But, it's you go from taking Simpson, who's not going to help you in 2026. I'm looking at the board now, and I see depth guys. I don't see anybody. I don't know that they need a guard. I don't know if they're going to take Emmanuel Pregnon here. Chris Brazzell, I mean, that would be an interesting pick. I like Chris Brazzell. If they could develop him, that could be a home run selection. But still, it's not like a plug-and-play guy that they had the opportunity to select last night in Mekhi Lemon. So really, you're looking at a backup or a situational player right now for the LA Rams. Likely a backup or situational player.
The one name that I if they were to pass Mekhi Lemon and go somewhere else with pick 13, I didn't think it would be Simpson, but I liked Antonio Williams. I felt like more than some people did. I feel like he gave effort as a run blocker, and just in terms of that slot guy, because I always kept coming back to this Rams team doesn't typically run 11 a lot, obviously, because McVay likes his tight ends. He likes his 12, 13 this past year. So that's why I kind of could see them skipping on Lemon and going for a more of a depth kind of slot receiver like a Williams on day 2 here. So we'll have to see what happens. But yeah.
Well, there was talk about them potentially taking Kenyon Sadiq. And we keep talking about the fact that Max Clare is still on the board, as is Oscar Dell. So, I mean, they could potentially take one of those two guys if they're looking for another. And there it is. The Los Angeles Rams select Max Clare, the tight end out of Ohio State.
Nostradamus strikes again.
Well, I actually credit to Dan because he led me down that path. So
you look at this tight end room. I mean, Colby Parkinson, Terrence Ferguson. They still got Higbee on the roster like this. I mean, they load up on tight ends. They're comfortable with having those bigger sets, and I think Claire potentially could be that best receiver in that group. So this is a good pick from them. This is where I anticipate guys like Claire to come off the board, and this is the appropriate range compared to some of the other tight ends that we've seen.
Are we going to Tampa, or do we have time for commentary?
We got time. We're still waiting. What do you think here, Luke?
About the pick, or about who the Broncos are going to go with?
About Max Clare.
Yeah, I mean, I like him a lot. Obviously, he's not Kenyon Sadiq or Eli Stowers as an athlete, but 448 yards, 2 touchdowns last year, 6'5", and I mean, it is. The Rams have a lot of tight ends, which I think is a little bit interesting. But like Daniel said, he could probably be the best receiver of their group. So if they're going to look for somebody that can impact that offense like day one, like they said, receivers, at this point they're not going to really start on that offense. So getting a tight end like Claire that could, come in and make a big impact in day one and actually impact winning in 2026, unlike their first round pick.
Well, the funny thing is their first round pick rolled the dice and they came up snake eyes for him, and so did Max Clare to an extent, because again, if you read the pro day reports, Max Clare did no testing before the draft. He didn't run a 40. He did absolutely nothing. And as a move tight end, scouts want to get a time on you. They want to get a 40 time. And for Max Clare not to do any testing, that was a big risk. But obviously he went where I think a lot of people thought he was going to go, late second round. He wasn't the second or third tight end, as many people thought, because some of the reaches right before him. But I think, listen, and even though he didn't test, there's football fast or football speed, and then there's 40 fast and 40 speed. And Max Clare definitely has got the football speed because you don't see him struggling to beat linebackers down the field.
I think it was very interesting that, he didn't test, because you didn't really see that speed too much in Ohio State this past year, but you definitely saw it when he was at Purdue. Right. So I think that was definitely interesting that he didn't, choose to do any 40s, nothing at the pro day. So I felt like that would have hurt him a little bit, but again, he still goes to where a lot of people anticipated him to go.
And remember, I mean, they had another tight end at Ohio State, and Will Kazmarek, who's going to come off the board sometime, I believe, early in day 3, could come off the board in the 3rd round. And there were a lot of mouths to feed. I mean, with Carnell Tate, with Jeremiah Smith, their running backs are good pass catchers out of the backfield. C.J. Donaldson did a terrific job catching the ball. So I think it was also probably a scheme thing where they, unlike Purdue, who was a terrible football team, they didn't send Max Clare down the field too often because they had the receivers who were able to do that.
Yeah,
Denver traded out.
Yeah, Broncos traded out here.
Bills are on the clock right now.
Yep.
They took
Bills on the clock.
Parker, and that is it.
Still need a linebacker.
They definitely need to hit linebacker here. Looking
Who's
at
still out there?
left, you got Kyle Lewis. He's undersized. I like Caleb Elam's Orr, but I think second round's a little too early for him.
I think for both of them, it's a little bit early.
The Broncos deal.
Broncos deal is
It's 66, and I just saw it.
They traded up to 62, and then the Broncos got 66 and 182.
Yeah. This is what we had talked about with the off-ball linebackers. I mean, you had that group of guys with, after Arvell, Reese, and Sonny Styles, then it went to C.J. Allen, Anthony Hill, Jacob Rodriguez, Jake Golladay, Josiah Trotter. Then it falls off a bit. I mean, Deontay Lawson of Alabama is a good player, but he's had a lot of injury red flags pop up. I like Kyle Lewis, but is he worth a second-round pick? Same thing for Caleb Elam's Or I like Harold Perkins, but I can't. You're not going to take Harold Perkins until second half of the third round. I mean, T.J. Parker was a good selection for the Bills, but they may have gotten a little too cute for themselves and may have to either wait on the linebacker or reach for the linebacker.
Yeah, because you kind of look at it. I like Jimmy Rolder from Michigan, but he's kind of more of that two down. It definitely doesn't offer much in the passing game. And then some people like Justin Jefferson from Bama. I didn't really get on that train, but again, like all these guys that we're talking about, like here at pick 62, like it's just a little early for me. So they obviously just traded up, so there has to be someone that's falling at the open. I have the pick. They got Davison Igbinosun from Ohio State. Is a guy they just selected, which for me, I mean, he's a multi-year starter, but he just gets way too handsy in coverage, way too aggressive, and that's the biggest.
He's a human penalty flag, literally. I mean, and I hate to say this, he's a typical Ohio State cornerback, and we in the Pauline family like Ohio State because my daughter graduated from Ohio State barely a year ago. But you look at a lot of these Ohio State cornerbacks, they enter the league and their best football was 2 years prior. Eli Apple, all these guys enter the league on down seasons. You look at Igbinosun, I mean, literally his best football was in 2023, when reversed in 2024, kind of leveled out last season. But the Bills take him. He's a bigger cornerback, which is what they like. They're going to have to play him in zone. You talk about him getting handsy and grabby. You put him in man coverage, you got a big chance of seeing the yellow flag thrown.
All right, so quick update here with the Broncos trading down to 66. Champ Bailey's going to join us right around pick 64 and talk a little bit there. And so we'll talk to Champ a little bit into the third round. So quick update there. Chargers on the clock now?
Yes.
Chargers on the clock at 63.
This could be Emmanuel Pregnon. I mean, there was talk about them taking an offensive lineman last night. DeSantis, they liked him.
There was talk of him going at 22 to the Rams.
Yeah, this definitely fits the Harbaugh type of lineman that he likes. I think you look at they signed Cole Strange to a 2-year deal for not a lot of money. They got Trevor Penning there for a year. We'll see, but I think this would be a good spot for Emmanuel Pregnon.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you go any other direction if you're the Chargers. And that guard is your biggest need still after they got Messidor yesterday.
I mean, just looking at the board, 100%. Then it's that little dip on the inside offensive line and the guards, at least. Jalen Farmer's a name. Billy Straith is a name, but again, just a little too early. So I think this is I'm surprised he's still even available here. So I anticipate the Chargers to go there.
Look at tight end. Tight end is the position, is a possibility here. I was a huge Rondé Gadsden fan. He worked out well, but I'm sure they'd like to get another player there at the tight end position.
Who would work here, though? Yeah, Delp.
Oscar Delpa's got to be a consideration. Another cornerback, although don't see too many.
Doesn't see McCoy just sitting
Boy,
there.
still sitting there.
I mean, Tony talked about the top potential to fall out of day 2, and clearly it's very real because that need just and just it just sucks for him, man, because his 2024 tape was just so dominant,
electric.
And again, I anticipated him to be a top 15 pick, assuming he was healthy. But again, medicals didn't come back good, and the fact that if you had asked me a week ago or tell me that McCoy would be a 4th or 5th rounder, I probably would have laughed in your face. But again, medicals are a big reason in this draft process, and we're just seeing it right now.
They are the reason. I mean, I say this time and time again when we're interviewed about the combine, people talk about the 40, the verticals, the position drills. Those are all nice. But bad medicals will take, and we've seen it time again, bad medicals will take a guy from, the top 15, 2, 3, 4 rounds later. Who was the offensive guard for the Kansas City Chiefs that got bad medicals and dropped into the 6th round, and now he's an outstanding player? So you have to guard against that as well. Trey Smith was a guy who just dropped like a rock because of bad medicals.
Could the Chargers go wide receiver here with Branch still out there?
I was thinking about that as well. Maybe if not Branch, Brazel.
Yeah.
They say that Quentin Johnson is not on the trading block, but I think that's an area that they could potentially address.
The pick is apparently in.
We'll have to see. I mean, yeah, corner's a real possibility. Receiver, I don't think there's really an edge to take here.
No.
But they took Mesidor day 1, so never mind. I'm surprised the Seahawks haven't. I mean, they might trade out, but I'm surprised they haven't traded back yet because obviously the 4 picks too. But we'll have to see what happens in a pick here.
Forward thinking, I think that Pregnon could also be a consideration for the Seahawks. I mean, played for Oregon all those years. They need interior offensive linemen. Still waiting on the Chargers selection. Haven't gotten that yet.
So if Pregnon gets past these 2 picks, then is there just something wrong that he's just?
Well, I spoke with the Eagles guy, and I said, I had heard that he was considered difficult during his time at USC. That can be looked either way. The LA Chargers take Jake Slaughter, who I know that the Houston Texans were looking at in round 3. So Jake Slaughter, the center from Florida, they take an offensive lineman, not the one we thought.
Yeah.
Goes with the 63rd pick to the Los Angeles Chargers.
Well, because they just signed Tyler. I can never say his last name, from Washington in free agency. That's a little interesting. Maybe they assume Slaughter can take over.
Sorry,
I'm sorry, Tyler Biadasz.
Yeah.
Do they think that Slaughter moves to guard, or?
I mean, he has good size. He's 6'5", 300. Over 32-inch arms. So I mean, it's a possibility. But again, he's played center for most of his time at Florida. So
one of them's got to move, or that's just a depth pick.
I assume he moves.
You can't. This is a bit of a strange pick for me because he's more tall than he is wide. He's not doesn't really fit the Harbaugh type of lineman. I was never very high on Slaughter. I mean, he wasn't super athletic. He wasn't exceptional on the move, in motion. Didn't move guys off the line of scrimmage. Obviously, there was a division of opinion on Slaughter because as I said, I know the Houston Texans were looking at him on day 2. But yeah, if you're taking Slaughter, somebody's moving to offensive guard.
He's finalist for the Remington Trophy, for the nation's top center. But yeah, weird fit here. Jeez.
I mean, yeah, he's been in college. He's been in college for what, 4 years. So he has the experience. I thought he was a decent enough athlete. I just thought he, like Tony said, I think he just tremendously lacked power. No times in this tape where you really saw him just move a guy out the way. Now he does a good job of putting a hat on a hat, but again, outside of that, he's not really going to drive people out of the way. So again, I mean, maybe I'm a little bit confused, but I think Slaughter definitely would be the one to move over if out of the two that we've just talked about.
All right,
And he didn't have a great Senior Bowl. You have to look at that in a sort of measured way. But he didn't have a great Senior Bowl. And remember, the Senior Bowl, players will have more eyes on them at the Senior Bowl than at any time in the pre-scouting process. So, in my opinion, a bit of a reach.
The Seahawks pick is apparently in. Where do we think they're going here?
Well, I can tell you exactly who they selected.
Well, there you go.
They selected Bud Clark, the safety from TCU. And I can also tell you that they were hoping that D'Angelo Pons, the cornerback that the Jets selected, fell into their laps. So when Pons didn't fall in because they lost Tariq Woolen, even though Pons isn't the 6 foot tall, 6'2" corner that the Seahawks really like, they reversed course and they took Bud Clark, who had an exceptional run up to the draft. He was terrific at the Senior Bowl, had a really good combine, good pro day workout, smart guy who really showed a lot of athleticism in the offseason. And that's why he ends up as the last pick in round 2.
Yeah, he's a guy who definitely had a really good Senior Bowl, had 4 interceptions this season. But for me, I think he gave up 4 touchdowns as well. He's a guy who's going to take chances in the back end. He's not scared to, trust his instincts, and sometimes they're wrong. No, that's not too much of a knock on him. But I wasn't, the biggest fan of him in one-on-one matchups. But again, at the Senior Bowl, he definitely changed my opinion on that. Like you said, Tony, the Senior Bowl has a lot of, ability to just kind of change opinions, especially when you're in those kind of all-star matchups. So I thought he had a lot of good one-on-one reps throughout that weekend. But again, he's a guy who is a ball hawk. He knows how to get good ball production, just really, really aggressive when he's in that safety role.
Tony, just harking back to our conversation with one of these picks. Malik Muhammad has got, you talk about a chip on his shoulder coming into the league. I think in his mind, he should be ahead of just about any corner taken in this round.
And I have Malik Muhammad as a 3rd round pick. The corners, except for McCoy and Igbinosun, have kind of come off the board as I expected them to. Keontae Scott, Malik Muhammad, Keith Abney. And Muhammad's a guy who, you talk about testing well, ran a 4.42 at the combine. And as we spoke about during that interview, scouts at the Senior Bowl, who I spoke with and listened to, thought that Malik Muhammad was going to struggle breaking 4.6 in the 40. So, and he's got excellent length. He's got terrific ball skills. He was a great interview. I would highly recommend that anybody who's watching our live stream go back and find that interview. He gave some great scouting reports. He gave us a great scouting report about Casey Concepcion. So if you're a Cleveland Browns fan, you want to find out firsthand against somebody who played man-to-man against Casey Concepcion. Gave us some great scouting reports on Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith. And the thing about Muhammad that I absolutely loved, besides the fact he told us where the best barbecue was in Austin, Texas, is that, he said going into that game against the Ohio State Buckeyes, game 1, he realized that it was a big draft matchup. He realized that there were going to be a lot of scouts' eyes on him in that matchup against Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate, and he realized that he had to step his game up.
And he delivered.
Yeah, he did.
Cardinals
back on the clock. The pick is apparently in.
They could continue.
Do they go O-line here?
Oh, they took Carson Beck.
What?
I was going to say, is this a Carson Beck spot?
They took Carson Beck.
Carson Beck. All right. We'll table that conversation because we've got the man, the myth, the legend on the line. Broncos legend, Hall of Famer, Champ Bailey joining Draft Night Live. How are you tonight, sir?
I am good. It's finally good to see my Broncos get a pick here soon. They keep sliding back on me.
You have been waiting a while.
Yeah.
Where do you want to, now that you've got it, where do you want to go with it?
It's so many places, right? This is the part of the draft where you can't you can't afford to miss. And if I could think of one position that I would love to see them shore up is, the running back position. It's been a little inconsistent over the years. Um, the young boy did well last year, but he was young. I'd like to see a bruiser, somebody like Mike Washington Jr. or somebody, the kid from Arkansas. So you can't have enough corners. You can't have enough D linemen, edge rushers. So there's a lot of ways you could go here, but running back would make me happy.
What about a tight end? Do you think they could go tight end with this pick?
That's another good one. They could, and they got their share of picks out there that they could go with. The thing about tight ends, other than a Brock Bowers, you really could get a good one in the later rounds. So if they don't get one here, I'm sure there's another one that they have their eye on.
Champ, who is is there one guy in this draft that makes you think of makes you think of the way you played? Just absolute lockdown.
Lockdown? I gotta admit, I was not locked down when I left college. I felt like I still had a lot to learn, and I was right about that. Good thing I got with Darryl Green my early years. But lockdown, I'm not sure. I really like the guy out of Clemson who my Falcons got. I say my Falcons because I live in Atlanta and I grew up in Georgia. So,
sure.
It was good. It's good to see them get Avion Terrell, and now he's with his brother. So it's a good story there. But outside of him, and I did see another corner I like get drafted. The Giants got Colton Hood. I'm very familiar with him. So it's. There was nobody. I would say the closest thing to me was last year with Travis Hunter. So, other than that, these guys got to prove it.
Champ, what do you think the Broncos need to do to take the next step to basically win that AFC title game and get back into the Super Bowl?
I think they were right there. I think the pieces are there. I think, ultimately they got to be better and more consistent on offense. And losing your quarterback at a time when, you feel like things are kind of clicking and coming together, it was just unfortunate timing. And the defense played well enough in that game to win it. But, of course, when you don't have your bread and butter, which is Bo Nix, and look, it's going to be an uphill battle. So just keeping guys healthy, kind of staying the course. I believe they have the core group of guys to win it. It's just now making sure whoever you bring in, these young boys, that's really going to determine the outcome is how well your young players play.
Well, the pick is in.
All right.
It's not a running back. It's not a tight end. It's Texas A&M defensive lineman Tyler Onidemba.
There you go.
Small, sort of a smaller, explosive, one gap type of guy. A bit of a replacement. Who was the kid from the play? John Franklin Myers.
Yeah.
Sort of a replacement for John Franklin Myers. That same sort of athletic, incredibly quick, very intense type of 3-down lineman that I think will be a good fit in that system.
Yeah, happy to see it. Like I said, you can't have enough D linemen. It's one of those positions, man. They're so undervalued. But if you are ever in a locker room and you go through the course of a season, you realize, man, you got to have guys that can do both, stop the run and get to the quarterback. And hopefully this is the guy.
We're talking with Broncos legend, Hall of Famer Champ Bailey. Champ, I want to get back to what you said earlier in terms of last year and Hunter. If you were the GM in Jacksonville, would you just move him and just keep him at quarter and let him? I mean, get rid of all this 2-position stuff and let him excel at one spot.
So let me preface this by going back a little bit. Last year, when everybody was talking about him playing one position, we were all haters, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm one of those guys. I want to let the guy do whatever he wants to do. But I understand being on the other side, being the GM, the coach. It is very hard to be good at one thing. So to have all this on your plate as a young player, it is really not necessary, because I feel like you hold yourself back because the learning curve from college to pro is so big and so dramatic. You can't just go out there and be the best athlete. You're not anymore. Like, on some level, you got to master something. So I would lean more towards focusing on one position. I mean, that's what I did my rookie year, and I was lobbying for playing time on offense. I never got it because I didn't master what I was drafted for. I think you got to figure out what is your primary thing, because doing both at a high level, it's almost impossible because the competition and the talent is so rare and so heightened this day compared to 30, 40 years ago when guys could possibly do it more. I mean, it's different. It's a different game. And we all see he didn't make it the whole season.
Yeah.
So going into this season, master that cornerback position and let's see where you go from there. I got him some playing time later. My second year, third year, fourth year, I got some playing time, but on offense. But again, I was proving myself as a legitimate star corner in the game, and I would love to see him do that first.
I mean, especially when you've got Champ Bailey saying what you were saying about him in terms of just the potential and the star turn potential for him.
Yeah. Yeah, we all got data. Like we have information that tells you how hard it is to do that. There was you know how many guys came before him that were capable of doing both at a high level? Maybe not at the same time, but if you would have made Deion Sanders a receiver, he would have been a Hall of Fame receiver. I think the same about myself. I think the same about Charles Woodson. I think the same about Gamble. I mean, he did it a lot in college. So it was at Ohio State. So there's some guys that had the talent on both sides that could have done either or, but doing both, oh my God, it's next to impossible. But I definitely want him to live out his dreams and get a chance to do it. I would just be hesitant as his coach, GM, or whoever's calling the shots.
Champ, let me ask you one last question from my end anyway. You're talking about receivers. What did you think about John Gruden claiming that Garrett Wilson of the New York Jets isn't a true number one wideout?
Ooh, that's a bold statement. I beg to differ. I saw him play.
You don't have to beg. You can just say it, man.
Look, it is. The guy has the talent, and I don't know what you expect from a guy that hasn't had consistency at the quarterback position. So, until you find him with a consistent quarterback, you got to give him some time. I believe he is. It would be helpful if there was another number one on the other side. But again, they need a good quarterback.
Or number two.
Yeah, or something. I mean, but he's always been number one on his team since he's gotten there. He just hasn't had consistent play at the quarterback position. The guy's very talented. Ask any corner who's had to cover him, and they'll let you know.
Daniel, any questions for Champ?
Yeah. So obviously, we're talking about the Broncos. How do you kind of feel like a receiver like Jalen Waddle kind of fits into that offense, and how does he kind of take that offense to even a greater level than it was, last season?
That was the one thing I was screaming about all last year. We just don't have the consistent, explosive player on offense, and I always felt like that held us back a little bit. It's crazy how they're able to move the ball the way they did without that explosive player next to Sutton. And I'm happy to see it because now you actually have somebody that people have to respect. He's a seasoned vet. He comes in understanding that people are looking at him as a leader. And when you leave your primary or your first team and you're entering the prime of your career, I mean, good things can happen. I did that in my career, and I could just remember right when I hit the ground with the Broncos, I knew I was a leader walking into that locker room. The respect was there, and guys are looking at me, and it upped my game. It made me up my game, and I'm looking at him the same way. when you walk into a new locker room, you got to prove yourself all over again. So it's a different level of work. And I'm looking forward to seeing where they go with him. Because, I mean, the kid can run with the best of them. So I'm looking forward to it.
Luke, any questions for Champ before we let him go?
Yeah, I kind of wanted to ask you about your draft experience because, like, nowadays, you know, they have the tunnel, they have the mirror with the hats, and all you see is these guys celebrating on stage. But really, for months, it's a taxing process that you got to go through, like meeting with all these teams, doing the combine. So, can you just talk a little bit about like how taxing it is to the players? That because we don't really get to see that side of it, just to see like how hard it actually is.
I didn't go to New York. You know, I was a projected top 10 pick, but I chose to stay home back in my hometown in Folkestone. So I didn't have to deal with that. But of course, it's a I wouldn't call it a clown show, but it's a lot. They're making you jump through hoops to put on a great show for TV. And I can't imagine that they get a lot for it because this is the biggest moment of their lives. The biggest thing you will hope to happen tonight is get drafted while you're there. And some of these guys don't get drafted, you know, at least on the first night, hopefully on the second night. But if you're there, I hope everybody gets drafted tonight that is in New York. But I can only imagine the stress, the pressure, all the interviews, all the things behind the scenes, man. People just want to go play football. So they just want to go figure out where they're going, go play ball and get back to work. But, you know, I'm praying for these guys. Let them get through it and let them get drafted if they're in New York.
Champ, you know, when you were at the Combine in 1999 in the RCA Dome, there was nobody there, right? There were some scouts and coaches scattered about. It was, you could probably hear a pin drop as compared to what goes on in the Combine today, which is more of a fan fest than it is a real scouting event.
Yeah, everything the NFL does is big events. So whenever they attach that logo to something, it's a meaningful thing that you have to go through and deal with, regardless if you like it or not. So that's who they are. I mean, that's why the league is so valuable. Every team is worth billions of dollars now. So I understand it, you know, but when I was there, I mean, I shouldn't have been there either. I didn't do anything. So, you know, a lot of these guys are kind of having to do some things, but you do see some guys, the top guys, don't work out at the draft or at the combine, and you know it doesn't hurt their stock. So it's still kind of the same thing with the top players, but again, it's the NFL, man. Everything's huge now.
Champ, what's the one piece of advice you'd give to the guys that have got drafted now in terms of making this transition as quick and painless as possible?
Yeah. Well, don't forget why you got here or how you got here. You know, keep the main thing, and just get to work. You know, I think nobody's a superstar walking into that locker room until you prove yourself. So every day you got to prove yourself. So trust the process, lean in on the process, and just do the work and let the work, you know, tell the story. And don't worry about anything else, the noise. Man, just remember why you got there and everything will work out.
Well, you certainly put in the work, sir, and we appreciate you. You gave us a phenomenal interview with Ryan Ward in the fall at Essentially Sports, and you've done it again here. So we appreciate your time tonight. Appreciate you coming on. Before we let you go, anything you want to plug? Any projects? Any shout outs to anybody?
Wow. You know, I do a lot of stuff these days. And you know, what I realized since I retired is I can really get involved in anything. And one of the things I've been involved with is Positive Athlete. And basically what we do is we recognize athletes in all sports in high school for all the positive things they do, whether they fight through injury or they're just a great teammate, they're great in the community. And I love that because oftentimes when people call me, it's to talk about football like I'm talking now. It's to talk to football players. And I always felt like I have more to give to more people. And this gives me the opportunity to do that because now it's not only football with just boys. Now it's girls and soccer and it's golf and it's tennis players and it's all these other Olympic events. It gives me the opportunity to shine a light on what they're doing great, because ultimately when you hang up the cleats or tennis shoes or whatever you have on, it's real life after that. And whatever they're learning and building through sports and all that hard work, that's what's going to matter. So we try to acknowledge that in real time, because most people don't go to college to play sports. So let's talk about what's really important. And, you know, I've been pleased with the way we've worked together and the company we built up to this point. And I'm just looking forward to seeing what's ahead. And, you know, they've been great to me, and I hope to continue to be great with them.
Where can people find out more about Positive Athlete?
positiveathlete.org. So it's a nomination process. So anybody can nominate these kids for whatever reason you think they should be recognized. And then they have the chance to earn scholarships, you know, to do whatever they want with, whether it's go to the next level, go to a tech school, learn a trade. It's so many different things they could do with that money. So it's now up to us as adults to shine a light on what's really important. And you go to positiveathlete.org. Our nomination process starts again in the fall. But right now we'll have our award ceremony in June, I believe. And then from there, we just keep building, man. And it's another cycle of kids, and it's more kids to pat on the back and tell them good job. And, you know, I'm happy about it.
Fantastic. Doing great things. And again, hugely appreciate you coming on Draft Night Live with us, giving us your insight and your perspective. All the best. And again, thanks for coming on. Champ Bailey.
Thanks,
Broncos
guys.
Legend.
Commanders on the clock.
and
don't forget about my Commanders now.
Here too. I love it.
Of course, man.
Champ,
I can't forget that. You too, guys. Good luck.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Champ Bailey. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. So our night is ending here. Our night is coming to an end. We can recap the picks. Any of these four picks while we were talking to Champ that stand out for you, Tony?
No, I think we're in the realm of best player available. I had mentioned that the teams were going to go best player available potentially in the beginning of day three. I think that we're getting to that point. I mean, Keon Crawford, nice edge rusher from Auburn. Guy's got poor size speed numbers, taken with the 67th pick by the Raiders. Raider type of player. Markel Bell, the massive offensive lineman from Miami, taken by the Philadelphia Eagles with the next selection. And don't forget, last year the Eagles took the massive offensive lineman from University of Texas, Cameron Williams, in the 6th round. So I don't know that either of these guys are going to be in the mix when Lane Johnson eventually retires. Sam Roush, the tight end from Stanford, taken by the Bears with the 69th selection. Oscar Delp still on the board, a couple other tight ends on the board. And then the San Francisco 49ers get their undersized edge rusher in Romello Height. He's the third of those defensive linemen from the Texas Tech defense after David Bailey and Lee Hunter to come off the board. All these guys, I think, went a little bit earlier than I would have expected. So I think we're in the realm now where the teams are just going to go best player available.
All right. If we look at what we've seen so far tonight, Daniel, what's the headline for what we've seen here?
I mean, we've talked about it, and I think it's just how the Browns have operated this draft. They've done a tremendous job in round one. Again, trade down, like Tony mentioned at the top of the show, trade down, get the tackle you wanted. Now you come into the back half, get Casey Concepcion. Then again, Denzel Boston falls, you grab him, and then you trade up to get Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, which is really good value. Like, this is a team that's drafting well. They still have more picks, in this round to get another quality starter, because that's just the type of depth that this draft has. And there have been some players who have been falling. So excited to see what they do here in this third round. But yeah, this is, to me, the biggest storyline throughout this draft for me.
Tony, how about you? What's your headline for, or your biggest takeaway on day two here so far?
Well, I hate to beat a dead horse, but I mean, Jermod McCoy is still out there. And like I said, when we started off, there's a chance, when we start round 4 tomorrow, he's still going to be out there. I was told that there's a chance he could fall out of the entire draft because the knee injury is so bad. Emmanuel Pregnon still being available is a little bit surprising to me as well.
How about you, Luke? What's your headline from day 2 here?
Yeah, I just liked where all the edge rushers ended up. I mean, R. Mason Thomas to Kansas City, Cassius Howell to Cincinnati, Derek Moore to Detroit, Zion Young in Baltimore, Gabe Yakis in New England. Like all those teams, like we're talking about the edge rusher room being super deep this year, and I mean all those teams that had needs got some really good players in round 2, and I think they're all going to fit in really well and be productive.
What do we didn't get much of a chance to talk about it because it happened right when Champ came on. Carson Beck to the Cardinals, Tony. What do you make of that fit?
Well, at least they didn't take him in the second round. They got a good player in the second round. Listen, I thought Beck any time before the 4th round was a bit of a reach. They think that obviously they think the physical skills are there. They have a good quarter. They've got some real good offensive-minded coaches there, especially the one leading the entire team, and that's probably what he needs. He needs some real good coaching from the ground up. It's hit or miss. I think they probably could have gotten a better player that would have helped them. Maybe an edge rusher. They took their defensive lineman because there are still some good edge rushers left. We'll wait and see. I mean, listen. If they get the Carson Beck everyone expected before the 2024 season, they could hit a home run. Otherwise, everyone's going to say, "Oh well, it was only a 3rd round choice."
How about you, Daniel? What do you make of Beck in Arizona?
Yeah, I mean, Tony kind of hit on it. I mean, they're just kind of taking a chance on just hoping that he can be something. Obviously, I don't know how early they would have taken Ty Simpson yesterday, but I feel like they just kind of assumed that they were just going to kind of be able to land him. Now, obviously, don't know how true that is, but you just lose out on the Simpson battle, and now you just kind of got to pivot to someone else who you kind of had high on your board, and thankfully, it wasn't in round 2. But I just kind of look at the overarching, Cardinals draft so far. Take the running back in the top 5, which is controversial in its own. Basantis in the 2nd round, and then you take Carson Beck, who I still think it was early, and I think, it's just a rough draft for me so far for them. Obviously, I love Love. I love everything he can do. But again, that's that whole conversation of positional value. And then Beck here, it's still a little early for me, in this 3rd round.
For you right now, Luke, where's the best fit for Nussmeier?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, I don't know at this point, if he's going to have, a great chance to start in his I'm thinking college, rookie season. But I think, the Jets with Geno Smith, maybe he could come in if he performs well, could beat him out, or even come in the middle of the year. Cleveland, we know they have 3 quarterbacks, but do they really have one that, can come up and take the position with a firm grasp? And then the Steelers would be another fun one, I think. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers' future is in question there, even if he does come back, probably only one more year. So he could be a fun little 3rd round project, see how he performs in training camp. And then next year, if they need to get a quarterback, they do. If not, and they liked what they saw from him, then maybe he gets to be the starter next year.
Luke, let me just say this. The only way you want Garrett Nussmeier to end up with the Jets is if you have a vendetta against him.
Yeah, that's fair. That is very fair.
Wow. I was shocked when you said that myself.
Well, I was just thinking best opportunities to maybe start as a, rookie, but I don't know. They're building they got some good weapons there, and they got some promising tackles, so you never know.
They do.
Should also add, as we've been talking, the Washington Commanders took Antonio Williams, the receiver from Clemson, off the board. So they got another receiver.
Nice. Tony, is Ty Simpson still remain the headline of the draft for you so far?
For me, no, but I think it's going to be one of the most talked about picks, selections moving forward. As we talked about last night, it was a major surprise. I don't think anybody, even head coach Sean McVay, saw it coming, as we saw from his press conference, as you talked about early on. And it's something that's going to be really discussed. Now, I did a video earlier today for Essentially Sports talking about it. And, the initial knee-jerk reaction, which I believe is justified, is the Rams should have taken somebody at that selection who they could put on the field in 2026 that's going to help them, win the division, get through the playoffs, and potentially get to the Super Bowl. The other way to look at it is when this process started and the Rams owned 2 first-round picks, many of us, including myself, thought that they would take Ty Simpson, but take him with the 30th selection and get a starter, preferably a cornerback early on. Now, they kind of flipped the script, if you will, because they took that 30th pick and they traded it for Trent McDuffie, the all-pro cornerback from Kansas City, signed him to a big contract, filled a big hole in the secondary, and then they took Ty Simpson with the 13th selection. The interesting thing, and it'll be fun, or if not interesting, I hate to continually use that word, to see if the build is. I was told the conversations within the league is that Les Snead, the general manager of the Los Angeles Rams,
We lost your mic there, Tony.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, fine. I was told, I don't know where so let me start. I said, the interesting thing about this is, and we'll see if this builds outside of league circles. And what the league is talking about is general manager Les Snead of the Los Angeles Rams has a very tight relationship with the Simpson family, especially his dad, who is a football coach. And it's been talked about literally the past 24 hours that is one of the main reasons, or that helped facilitate the Los Angeles Rams taking Ty Simpson with that 13th selection. I don't want to call it nepotism, but I mean, that familiarity with the family is one of the reasons why people are saying Simpson went with the 13th pick. It's probably also the reason why, McVay is saying he's never talked to him before and never really scouted him. So that's interesting. That's something very interesting to keep an eye on.
Absolutely. Daniel, in terms of headlines looking forward, are there guys left on the board that you're really looking heavily at and want to get off the board quick here?
Yeah, I don't want to hammer Jamon McCoy as much as we already have, but I just some of these safeties. I mean, AJ Halsey was a guy that I'm really high on. The Pregnon slide, I mean, it's really surprising now how far he's been able to fall down that board. Those are two names that instantly stand out to me. But to me, overall position group, like there are a ton of wide receivers still available here in the top of round 3. Malachi Fields, Razzle, Ted Hurst, Skylar Bell, Surratt. These are a bunch of guys. Chris Bell was a potential early second-round pick. Like there are a ton of names here that I think in the back half of this, round 3 and maybe, early day 4, we're going to see an eventual receiver run kind of start going here.
Oscar Delp to the Saints, Luke.
Yeah, it's exciting. I mean, Juwan Johnson he actually came around pretty well this year and became that elite receiver. But when you got a guy like Delp to help it run those 2 tight end sets who tested super well, I know he didn't have a lot of production at Georgia, which was a bit of a head scratcher considering how he tested, but I mean, it's an exciting pick. It's another weapon for Tyler Shuck in this offense. I really thought they were going to go defense again, so I was surprised to see tight end come off the board in round 3. But, I mean, Delp, some people had him as tight end 3 in this class. So,
Tony, how about you in terms of value still on the board, the players that you're looking to get off this board sooner than later?
Well, other than the ones that have been mentioned, Mike Washington's still out there. Josh Josephs, the edge rusher from Tennessee, is still available. Keontae Scott, is he a nickel corner? Is he a nickel safety? He's a darn good defensive back who ran 4.33 at his pro day. We talked about Zachariah Branch, but as I said, Zachariah Branch received some medical red flags over his knee. Jennings Dunker, I would expect to go relatively soon. The 2 linebackers, Kyle Lewis and Caleb Elam's-Orr, are still available out there. One of the more interesting picks to see where he goes is Brennan Thompson, the receiver from Mississippi State. He ran the 4.26 at the combine. If you watch the film, he's a real good pass catcher. He's not just a fast guy on the football field, but he's small, 5'9.5", 165 pounds. Got to line him up in the slot. Have to line him up off of press coverage. That'll be one of the more interesting ones. And of course, our friend Malik Muhammad. We'll see if he is called on the board or call if his name is called before the third round ends.
The Giants just traded up, and they got Malachi Fields.
Yeah.
So they get the wideout. That
they moved up a lot too. They gave up 105, 145, and a 2027 fourth.
Yeah, so they don't pick until the 6th round. That's their next pick. So they definitely paid a heavy penny to get Fields. I mean, he's someone a type that they don't really have in their room. 6'4", almost 220. Ran a slower time at 4.61, but I mean he's that typical contested catch guy. I think he doesn't separate as much, so that's obviously a little bit of a concern. But I mean, gives Jackson Dart just a big target down the field.
Perfect compliment to Malik Neighbors. I don't know that I would have selected him over Kit Hurst. But even with that 40 time, he plays faster than that. I mean, you saw at the Senior Bowl, he was able to stretch the field. And remember what Pat Leonard said. I mean, they're not sure when Malik Neighbors is going to be ready. He may be ready week 1. Pat said, maybe week 4. So a guy like Fields, who's played a lot of college football, he's a big, strong athlete, could be pressed into action early in his NFL career. And I think that's the first time, except for trades that happen like the Quinnen Williams and that, I think that's the first time this draft that we've seen a pick in 2027 traded. I may need to be correct in that, but that's the first time.
I think you're right about that.
I think you're right. Yeah.
That's a heavy price to come up, but yeah, they obviously believe in the talent. And again, you look at their receiver room; they do not have a body type like that. So it definitely is a good compliment to everything they've had so far.
Yeah, maybe it's a sign that they're really going to sign DJ Reader now because they're not getting a defensive tackle anytime soon.
We've been talking all draft though that there was, especially with the Neighbors injury, that there was a need here, and
100%.
They must have had high grades on Fields and just starting to read the room in terms of wide receivers going off the board. So they felt the need to get up, I guess, here.
I think probably what also happened is when they lost out on the Caden McDonald in round 2, they went with Colton Hood, who's also fits a position of need, and it probably was the best player on their board rather than going receiver. Now it becomes, and the fact they don't have a 3rd round pick because of the trade back into the 1st round from a year ago to get Jackson Dart. I guess as Pat told us, DJ Reader expecting to be signed probably right after the draft, if not sometime tomorrow.
If I put you on the spot right now, I mean, we've been talking obviously about the teams that are doing well, but if I put you on the spot in terms of your best grade for a team so far,
oh man,
who would it be right now, Daniel?
I feel like I'm gonna miss a team, obviously, just on the spot.
Yep.
But the team that I've really liked their draft, and they haven't made him a lot of picks, is the Buccaneers. They've just been able to sit, and they've gotten really 2 solid players in Ruben Bain and Josiah Trotter. They're going to make a pick here in a little bit in the 3rd round, so we'll have to see what happens there. But again, not a team that's done a lot of action, but a team that's just sat, and they've just taken the best player available when they're up on the clock.
Tony, how about yourself? If I asked you for the best team so far in terms of the grade you'd give.
Well, I'm going to keep the Cleveland Browns out of this conversation because I've been on them and applauded them literally since Wednesday night when I said this would be my dream scenario for them, and they followed through.
Yeah,
I like what the Ravens did. I mean, they take Ione, who is a perfect fit for that offense. He's going to be a day 1 starter. He's a mauler who's probably going to have a very long career. And they come back in the middle of round 2 and they get Zion Young, which was great value there. Again, fits a need. They signed Trey Hendrickson in the offseason after that trade for Max Crosby went south. And the thought process was they wanted both Max Crosby and Trey Hendrickson on the team. Well, they don't have Trey Hendrickson and Max Crosby. They have Trey Hendrickson and a young guy by the name of Zion Young, who is an exceptional pass rusher. So I like what the Ravens have done.
Nice. How about yourself? You can't name the Saints.
I was about to say,
you can't name the Saints, Luke.
I do like their draft,
but the best grade too.
This one comes with a little bit of an asterisk because I don't like the Peter Woods pick that much, but I really love our Mason Thomas and Mansour Delane for the Chiefs. Because Delane, I mean, obviously they had that huge need at corner with Watson and McDuffie leaving. And this isn't even just an LSU thing. Mansour Delane is a fantastic cornerback. Like, I think he's a top 7 talent in this draft probably. And he's going to fill that need instantly. And then I didn't like our Mason Thomas early, but as I came around to it and I started wanting the Saints to get him in round 2, like he's just that fast, like explosive edge rusher off the line that they could really use. So I really like those 2 picks for them. And if Peter Woods pans out, then that's one hell of a draft.
There you go. We'll grade it. We'll grade it down the road, and I will eat crow on Peter Woods, and hopefully, as a Clemson fan, hopefully eat crow on the rest of the Clemson picks here. I can't get the Tarzan Jane thing out of my head. Tony, I can't get that line out of my head. Caleb,
I should have patented it years ago when I made it up.
Caleb Douglas, Texas Tech wideout, goes to the Dolphins.
Wow. Surprising a little bit earlier, although there were some people who thought, he was 4th round value, bigger receiver, sure-handed. Obviously, that's the type of receivers that they're going to want in Miami, the big-bodied, sure-handed guys to catch all those errant throws tossed by Malik Willis.
Well, so our time on air is coming to an end, but you're going to get coverage. You're going to get draft coverage all weekend long, all next week. and then we turn right into 2027. And the evaluate, Tony, is it a couple days before you go into the film room for 27?
No, it'll be a couple of weeks.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Garage, do things like that I have been neglecting the past God knows how long. And then eventually what'll happen is I'm just going to get I'll feel guilty and I'll just get bored and it's as Bill Parcells said, it's like a narcotic. It's addictive. So if I'm away from it too long, I got to get my fix, and that'll happen in about 2 weeks.
2 weeks. You are a junkie. Wow. Well done. Well done. We want to just send a huge shout out. We're here in LA. We want to thank the folks at Infinity Studios. That's where we've been the last 2 days. Just an amazing job from Dewan, from Jeff Sims. The whole crew here has been outstanding. We want to thank all the guests. We want to thank Max Brown, Jason LaConfora, Champ Bailey, Jared Allen, Steve Berline. We haven't even run the Steve Berline interview. We'll run that online, folks. But Steve Berline came on with us and talked draft. Just a phenomenal interview that we can't wait to show you on our socials and on EssentiallySports.com. I feel like I'm doing an Oscar
I don't want
speech.
to interrupt you.
Yeah,
but Drew Aller.
I know what you're going to say here.
Yeah, Drew Aller.
Drew Aller just went to the Steelers
at 76. So Drew Aller is the Garrett Nussmeier still on the board.
Because you were trying to get out there. I felt like that was a little bit of a that's
a headline.
That's a headline.
Absolutely.
So my bold prediction was actually 3 quarterbacks and Nussmeier would be the last one.
Oh, my bold prediction of more quarterbacks and running backs is currently
laying out.
Yeah, but I feel like we're gonna get a running back run here soon. But yeah, I mean, I wonder if that's. I mean, I knew McCarthy kind of wanted to have a quarterback to develop of his own, so it makes sense because Aller is the most. He needs a lot of refinement within his game, but I mean, he has the tools, he has the arm, he has the size. So, I mean, in the 3rd round, I guess.
I'm just wondering if these interns who load the film for the coaches and the scouts put Drew Allar's film in from 3 years ago and Carson Beck's film in from 2 years ago. You can't be drafting these guys off of what they did, the past 2 years.
And the weird thing with Aller is like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, you mentioned like you saw the potential and you're like, okay, he's gonna get a little bit better, gonna get better. Like somehow took like 5 steps back in 25.
Yeah.
I don't know how it's
Well,
possible.
It's not just 25. It was, I mean, he looked sensational as a freshman in 23 and then leveled off in 24, even went reverse in 24, and then fell off a cliff last season.
Yeah, it's definitely an intriguing. He did the opposite thing if you typically see out of college quarterbacks. He went backwards in the development, which sucks because he has the size to be a top 3 quarterback.
So if you can build the physique of a quarterback, it would probably be Drew Aller.
Yeah.
I forgot Jason Cabinda. Absolutely want to thank Jason Cabinda.
See, they made that pick to give you time to think about who to thank.
Absolutely. Jason Cabinda was amazing with us. Watch him on Good Morning Football. Just the whole crew at Essentially Sports just did an outstanding job putting this whole thing together. Tony, just amazing work with the picks, with the analysis. Not a shocker, but still, that's so long haul that you've been part of, my friend, in this draft season. I mean, is any big takeaways just from the draft season in general, Tony?
I think what we're seeing in day 2, Chris McClellan just went off the board, picked 77 to the Green Bay Packers, so they got their nose tackle. I think some of the surprising picks that we've talked about, the past 3 hours since probably the middle part of round 2, is indicative of this draft. I mean, we knew it wasn't going to be a strong draft. We knew it was. There was not a lot of quality at the top. There's not a lot of quantity in, basically starting from the middle of round 2. And I think what we've seen is what we expected. The only thing that people have to remember, and I say this time and time again, is people get all crazy about the draft, what our team did, what our favorite team didn't do. It's all on paper right now. I mean, the draft is not the end. The draft is just the beginning. And really, this has to play out over the next couple of years. I know people want instant results, and they will decide in 2 or 3 weeks or 2 or 3 games whether a player is a bust or not, which is ridiculous. But the draft is just the beginning. It's not the end.
It's the beginning, the beginning of our journey too, in terms of covering these guys.
It is, and there's a lot of excitement with a lot of these players to kind of see how they play out because. There's a ton of them in this draft that we've mentioned. I mean, there's a lot of high upside, so we're going to have to see how it kind of plays out this next year. But definitely a ton of players that I'm already excited to see on the field next year.
Absolutely. Huge shout out to all the correspondents, to all the podcast guys that came on to be experts during the picks. Outstanding work from all of them. Luke, final words from you?
Yeah, I mean, we expected this draft to be unpredictable after the second pick, and that's exactly what we got. And first round, second round, we got guys sliding. Jermod McCoy's knee, obviously, but Emmanuel Pregnon's sliding. It's been very entertaining, very unpredictable, and I think that'll probably continue throughout the draft or the rest of the draft.
And we will be covering it all weekend long. Catch all of the analysis, the recaps, the look forward. We'll start looking forward. Catch it all on EssentiallySports.com. For Luke Hubbard, Daniel Rios, Tony Pauline, I'm Tim Wood. We thank you so much for watching Draft Night Live. Again, catch all of the reporting at EssentiallySports.com.
We know this is how you feel sports. Raw, personal, lived in the moment. And moments don't end with the final whistle. They stay in replays, in debates, and the quiet that follows. Essentially Sports was created for one reason: you, the fans. Because we're fans too.
So the way it all began, 3 sports fans in a dorm room.
We see something amazing and we pass it on. The friend we text in all caps. The hidden battles in the polls. The stranger we high-five. Sports is what we talk about, think about, dream about.
This is Essentially Sports.
We built Essentially Sports for every kind of fan.
We've been listening to everything you've been saying to present a brand that fans can call their home.